Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
Lawmakers fighting for a free press. A House hearing today honed in on issues surrounding protecting journalists and their sources.
Nuclear fusion, military upgrades, and space exploration. President Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Kishida are keen to strengthen ties in the face of Chinese regime aggression.
An appeals judge rejects former President Trump's bid to delay his so-called hush money trial for the third time this week. The trial is set to start next week.
House conservatives tanked the latest FISA bill, some taking issue with the surveillance bill's lack of a warrant requirement over civil liberty concerns. We have insights.
Illegal immigrants will no longer be welcome in the state of Iowa. Hear about a new law signed by Governor Kim Reynolds.
Boeing faces more scrutiny in the 737 MAX 9 door plug probe. What investigators are looking for in this round of interviews?
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hi, I'm David Lamb. I'm sitting in for Chris Beers.
And to begin the show, President Biden at a state dinner last night said the U.S. alliance with Japan is stronger than it's ever been.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will take part in a trilateral summit in Washington today with Biden and the President of the Philippines.
Kishida will address a joint meeting of Congress later today. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has updates on U.S.-Japan ties.
To our alliance, to our friendship.
President Biden praised Japan's shared commitment to democracy, freedom, and dignity for all at a state dinner on Wednesday.
And today, without question, our alliance is literally stronger than it has ever been.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida toasted the Japanese-U.S. relationship, concluding with a line from Star Trek.
To boldly go where no one has gone before.
The leaders announced a collaboration for space exploration, including for moon missions earlier in the day, and unveiled a joint partnership to accelerate nuclear fusion. The Department of Energy says the partnership will focus on scientific and technical challenges and expand work between U.S. and Japanese universities, labs, and private companies. President Biden on Wednesday also announced joint steps to upgrade military command and control structures in Japan, meant to deter or counter Chinese regime aggression in the Pacific region. Representative Adrian Smith told NTD's Capital Report the U.S.-Japan relationship is absolutely vital.
Especially given the neighborhood that they face every day with China, with North Korea, with Russia, adversaries seeking to undermine freedom and opportunity in any country they can, and in Japan is certainly front and center right there.
Congressman Jack Bergman told NTD the opportunity to cooperate with Japan is absolutely outstanding.
Whether it comes to submarines, quantum computing, AI, hypersonics.
Bergman says an agreement with a technologically advanced country like Japan would send a message.
It will show the world in those other countries who would like to, if you will, partner with the U.S., that we are the kind of partner, as opposed to China, who is a partner that wants to take from you. They give a little, but they take a lot. So this is an opportunity for the Biden administration.
Australia, Britain, and the U.S. on Monday said they were formally considering working with Japan through their AUKUS security pact. The U.S. is holding a trilateral summit with Japan and the Philippines on Thursday. Senators Bill Hagerty and Tim Kaine introduced a bipartisan bill Wednesday that would give the Philippines $2.5 billion to boost defenses against CCP pressure. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
A gift that keeps on giving. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida presented new cherry trees in Washington, D.C.'s Tidal Basin yesterday. Japan is giving the United States 250 cherry trees meant to reflect the strong geopolitical alliance and friendship between the two nations.
The number of trees is symbolic of the United States' 250th birthday, which is in 2026.
The new trees will replace the existing ones that will be torn down during construction work in the coming months.
Tidal Basin has become a popular spot due to the nearly 3,000 brightly colored cherry trees donated by Japan in 1912.
The trees were given as a symbol of peace and goodwill between the two nations.
And a controversial section of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act did not pass muster in a House vote yesterday. The warrantless surveillance power is due to lapse next Friday. Joining us to discuss this is retired Colonel John Mills, Senior Fellow at the Center for Security Policy and former Director of Cybersecurity Policy with the Department of Defense. Welcome, Colonel. Great to speak with you as always. To begin with, what do you think are the risks if Section 702 of the FISA Act isn't reauthorized?
Well, I think, Stephanie, what we need at this time is transparency and accountability. I've been through a number of these extensions and renewals when I was in government. What NSA, DHS, FBI always does is they brief the Congress members in the House and the Senate on their incredible collection capabilities, which I was part of for 7 years, and the capability just grew dramatically. They are stunning, they are intoxicating, and it always captures the House and the Senate members who say, ooh, yes, I want that, not thinking about privacy, civil liberties, and the downside of weaponization. If you've been notified at your home that your home system is potentially being monitored, and that's a note that comes from your internet service provider, that's part of the process. That means a potential foreign power such as China is on your home computer. Guess what? That gives the U.S. intelligence and law enforcement community authority to be on your home computer, watching the Chinese watch your home computer. What could possibly go wrong here? It also was where we got the unmasking from in 2016. So incredible capabilities that are intoxicating should not run over constitutional foundations, and that's the challenge at this point in time.
Okay, and so I hear you saying that these surveillance capabilities have grown in the time that you were there and seeing them up close. But the Section 702, it has been continually renewed since its inception. So what has changed in that time?
Well, capabilities have grown, the threat has grown. But again, the members of the House and Senate get these dazzling briefs from NSA, DHS, FBI on the surveillance capabilities, and they get glassy-eyed and tipsy and say, wow, that's great, I want more of it.
So what revisions what do you think could be made, what changes could be made to prevent Section 702 from being misused?
More robust oversight and accountability. And this unmasking episode of 2016, 8 years ago, that's gotten worse. That was a weaponization where Susan Rice took those intercepts and revealed the American names. This was the foundation for Russiagate, Spygate, all these things. And that's the problem. These immense capabilities that have they grow exponentially every year. The likelihood they will be weaponized, especially in the upcoming election, is very likely. And so, no, I'm at this point in time, until there is just a far more robust oversight, transparency, and accountability, this is as much a danger to the American citizen and our process as it is to getting what we need to get out of China or Russia.
Right. It's a double-edged sword. There's two huge things at stake here. And you've mentioned the election that's upcoming. There's always been, and there currently is still, the threat of foreign interference in that. But there's also so many threats abroad, both and domestically, not just in terms of the election. So how important is it to get this reauthorized at this time?
Well, we want aggressive collection against foreign adversaries. And we do have, China is listed as a foreign adversary nation. That's in U.S. law. But we need this element of transparency, oversight, and accountability, which we're not getting. It is too easy for deep staters who sit in the interagency working teams to tee-hee, unmask, and weaponize this, just like they used against Papadopoulos, just like they used against Trump in 2016 and the whole fraud of Spygate and Russiagate.
So just briefly, Colonel, what's in the way of that, this accountability that you've mentioned? Can it be...
Well, we need to we need to have more professional staffers be encumbered into these positions to conduct that oversight. It's relatively scant, and it's nominal spot checking. So the quality control in this process is very weak.
All right, that's all we have time for, unfortunately. I hope we can continue this conversation. Thank you so much, Colonel John Mills, Senior Fellow at the Center for Security Policy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie.
An appeals judge has denied former President Trump's third attempt to delay the start of his New York criminal trial. Judge Ellen Gesmer rejected Trump's bid yesterday, arguing recent rulings prevent him from getting a fair trial. Trump's legal team alleged a gag order put in place by Justice Juan Merchan has unconstitutional effects.
Trump is challenging the order and trying to have the venue changed. A panel of appellate judges will consider Trump's appeal later this month.
Judges have already rejected Trump's bids in emergency hearings twice this week.
The so-called hush money trial is set to start on Monday next week. NTD's Arlene Richards has more on Trump's other trials. Okay, and turning now to a federal judge who has just allowed Trump, a co-defendant in the classified documents case, to submit an FBI interview transcript. The ruling is a blow to special counsel Jack Smith. Let's take a look at that. The defendant, Walt Nauta, is Trump's former valet. The judge ruled he must redact the names of potential government witnesses in the transcript over safety concerns.
In early June 2023, Nauta was charged with 6 counts related to concealing classified documents.
Around a month later, Mar-a-Lago property manager Carlos de Oliveira was added as a co-defendant. He was accused of helping delete security footage of boxes of classified documents being moved. They have both pleaded not guilty.
A hearing is set for Friday on the 2 co-defendants' motions to dismiss the charges.
Up next, billions of dollars spent, but the problem only got worse. A new state audit reveals shocking numbers regarding California's handling of the homelessness crisis.
The South takes a beating with severe storms spawning tornadoes and demolishing buildings. Video of the fierce weather and its aftermath.
You know, these kids grow so fast. Cherish every little moment you get with them. Tyler, he's 10, and little Daryl, he's 12. Being a single dad, it is hard, really hard. I've been there since day one. I know how it is, you know, not to have nothing. I don't really get paid much. There's been times I went hungry, made sure they ate. There ain't a thing I wouldn't do for them.
Millions of our neighbors are facing hunger. Rising food prices are making it tougher to put food on the table. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
At least now I know I gotta, help if I need it.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. We are getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you're a part of a movement working together to ensure that everyone has the food and resources we all need to thrive.
If you're hungry, if they got it, they'll feed you. People just gotta realize, places like this do exist that will help you.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org. Working together, we can end hunger in America.
Did you know indoor air quality can be 5 to even 100 times worse than outdoors? Meet the Air Doctor. It's your answer for clean air and the only hospital-grade air purifier equipped with advanced ultra HEPA filters, proven to improve your indoor air quality and overall health. Air Doctor circulates and triple filters the air in your room up to 5 times per hour. Say goodbye to pollen, smoke, mold spores, pet dander, even viruses, because the Ultra HEPA filter removes virtually 100% of dangerous contaminants down to 0.003 microns. That's 100 times smaller filtration than ordinary HEPA purifiers. This would have been in your lungs. Finally, get relief from allergies and asthma and reduce airborne disease.
It's pulling the pollutants out. It's even pulling the toxic chemicals that our cleaning products leave behind.
Call or go to tryair-40.com now. Get 40% off our best-selling air purifier.
Call 1-800-876-0163. Call now.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
Iowa authorities will soon have the power to arrest and deport illegal immigrants previously denied admission to or removed from the United States. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed a new law yesterday expected to take effect on July 1st. Under the law, it will be a state crime for someone to be in Iowa if they have outstanding deportation orders or were previously removed from the United States.
Reynolds says Iowa's new law is a direct result of the Biden administration's failure to enforce U.S. immigration laws.
Under normal circumstances, the federal government is responsible for enforcing immigration laws. However, Reynolds says President Biden refuses to deport people who come into the country illegally.
Texas recently passed a similar law to the one in Iowa, but is now stalled in court after a challenge from the Department of Justice. New York City's multi-million-dollar deal to care for illegal immigrants. The Big Apple is now letting a controversial contract worth almost $500 million expire.
City officials announced this week that they won't renew a contract with mobile health services company DocGo.
The $430 million no-bid contract currently serves around 3,600 illegal immigrants.
DocGo has come under scrutiny multiple times before. The city's comptroller criticized New York for awarding such a costly contract to a medical company that doesn't have experience in providing shelter to immigrants.
Governor Kathy Hochul previously said she'll probe whether the for-profit company was meeting its agreed-to obligations.
The New York Times found that DocGo has been tossing away tens of thousands of uneaten meals, including 5,000 on a single day.
The DocGo contract expires on May 5th. The city will then look for a competitive bid contract with a different vendor.
And now to California, where a new audit found the state failed to track the costs and outcomes of its homelessness services. That's despite spending billions of dollars over the last 5 years. The audit says that California allocated around $24 billion over the last 5 years to combat the homelessness crisis.
But still, California's homeless population increased from 116,000 in 2015 to over 180,000 in 2023, as this chart shows.
The report partly blames the California Interagency Council on Homelessness. The audit found the council hasn't tracked and evaluated state programs for almost 3 years now.
California's state auditor told Governor Gavin Newsom the state must do more to assess the effectiveness of its programs. Severe storms spawned a tornado that demolished buildings in one Louisiana city yesterday. The stormy conditions were part of a severe weather system that pounded communities across much of the South. In Slidell, Louisiana, multiple people were injured and first responders were scouring neighborhoods after reports of a morning tornado strike. Ferocious winds and rain bending trees were seen in the city as the storm pushed through the area.
The aftermath, a tangled mess of power lines, trees, and cars, will surely make for a dangerous cleanup. Severe damage done to a church in Louisiana can be seen here. Authorities said first responders had to rescue people trapped in one heavily damaged apartment building.
In Houston, Texas, a tire shop was destroyed after a tornado briefly touched down. The tornado had maximum winds reaching up to 90 miles per hour. Part of a Mexican restaurant's roof was blown off as well.
In Mississippi, officials say one person died and at least 72 homes were damaged by the extreme weather.
The Storm Prediction Center said severe storms are moving east today. bringing a slight risk of severe thunderstorms from Florida to South California. The National Weather Service says life-threatening flash flooding was reported early this morning in Tallahassee, Florida.
And the National Transportation Safety Board is conducting a new round of interviews with Boeing and FAA personnel this week. The interviews are part of a probe into the door plug blowout on a 737 MAX 9 in January.
NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy said yesterday that investigators were back at the 737 plant in Renton, Washington. Homendy said the NTSB is looking for other instances where a door plug was opened and closed to make sure that those records are available. She said investigators want to make sure those other instances are documented. Investigators are also looking at Boeing's safety culture.
Homendy said Boeing and investigators still don't know which personnel worked on the Alaska Airlines plane that suffered the emergency. The NTSB has still been unable to interview the door plug team manager, who has been on sick leave. The Justice Department has opened a criminal investigation into the emergency.
A Colorado firm is suing the Federal Aviation Administration over its hiring policies. The firm says over 900 applicants failed a screening because they were too white. I hear from William Trackman, General Counsel at the Mountain States Legal Foundation. William, good to see you again. Now, tell us how race is a factor in your lawsuit against the FAA.
Well, hi there. I'm representing Mountain States Legal Foundation as part of a class action on behalf of 900 plus would-be air traffic controllers. And so we brought this suit based on the FAA's change in its hiring practices. So it used to be that they would score a pre-employment test and it would be based on merit. And all of our clients passed with flying colors. Many of them passed with 100% on this test. And the FAA decided that the pool of air traffic controller applicants was too white. And so they flushed that initial test and they adopted a biographical assessment, which you can already hear is an ominous term for a air traffic controller test. And unfortunately, our clients didn't pass that. And we allege that the FAA changed the test in order to gerrymander the racial pool.
William, how would the FAA decide between a qualified employee based on skills and experience versus race?
Well, here we think that they were using race in order to figure out who ought to become an air traffic controller. So even though it's a job that relies on skill sets and experience and making sure that customers are safe, they are deciding that diversity makes us all stronger, regardless of whether that's true or not. And so they are injecting into the process considerations that have nothing to do with your qualifications. And so we think this is a very significant problem, both legally and, of course, it's courting danger in terms of our safety.
And there's been a number of airplane incidents recently, including emergency landings, a door plug flying off, and even a pilot repairing a window right before takeoff. There's been speculation that there could be a correlation between hiring practices and these incidents. What do you make of this?
So you can't draw a straight line yet between any one of these incidents and a DEI hiring policy. But just inevitably, it will be the case that when you don't hire the best person for the job and they confront challenges or a plane has difficulties, you are going to be relying on people that you otherwise wouldn't have to rely on. And so whether it's so far or in the future, it's inevitable. It's only a matter of time that something actually happens and we have a disaster or an emergency that can't adequately be handled.
Now, in your lawsuit at Mountain States Legal Foundation, what are you seeking and what are the next steps?
So we represent a class of over 900 would-be air traffic controllers. We're suing under federal civil rights laws. The government moved to dismiss our complaint. We prevailed on that. The government fought us on class certification. We prevailed on that. Now we've demanded hundreds of thousands of documents from them. We'll do witness interviews approaching now. Then there'll be motions practice, but ultimately what we want is justice. We want our clients to have the life that they would otherwise have if they had gotten the job of air traffic controller. And so that means damages, it means an injunction to prevent the FAA from doing this again in the future, and to put us back to a system where we value merit and equality under the law.
All right, William, thank you so much for your insight and for being with us.
Thank you.
Up ahead, public media organization NPR defends itself from criticism. One of the organization's employees caused a commotion after saying the NPR has a major bias problem in its reporting.
Lawmakers fighting for a free press. A House hearing today hones in on issues surrounding protecting journalists and their sources. We'll have the details soon when we return.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging, gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, April 3rd through the 14th. Buy tickets now at shenyun.com.
A friend of mine, she told me about Bonatti. He was the only one to address all 4 discs as quickly as possible. And if you're to that point where you can't take it anymore, like I was, do your research, find out who the best is, and get it done.
Visit AskBonatti.com.
You know, these kids grow so fast. Cherish every little moment you get with them. Tyler, he's 10, and little Daryl, he's 12. Being a single dad, it is hard, really hard. I've been there since day one. I know how it is, you know, not to have nothing. I don't really get paid much. There's been times I've been hungry, made sure they ate. There ain't a thing I wouldn't do for them.
Millions of our neighbors are facing hunger. Rising food prices are making it tougher to put food on the table. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
At least now I know I gotta, help if I need it.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. We are getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you're a part of a movement working together to ensure that everyone has the food and resources we all need to thrive.
If you're hungry, if they got it, they'll feed you. People just gotta realize, places like this do exist that will help you.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org. Working together, we can end hunger in America.
Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I am so proud to call you my son.
NPR says it's proud to stand behind its work after a senior editor criticized it for biased reporting.
The story has reportedly caused a commotion at the media organization.
This comes after NPR senior business editor Yuri Berliner told the Free Press that his news organization has turned its journalists into activists who tell its audience what to think. He cited examples of stories that he considers major issues of bias at the organization.
He cited NPR's promotion of the Russian collusion conspiracy theory used against former President Trump, its turning a blind eye to the Hunter Biden laptop report, its refusal to acknowledge the Wuhan COVID lab leak theory, and its emphasis on what he calls bizarre stories about systemic racism. Berliner said that NPR of today reflects the distilled worldview of a very small segment of the U.S. population.
NPR's chief news executive Edith Chapin responded saying the organization is proud to stand behind the work that its desks and shows do to cover a wide range of challenging stories. But she also said that NPR's work isn't above scrutiny or critique, and that NPR's newsroom must have discussions about how to serve the public as a whole. And at a time when the freedom of the press is needed more than ever, House lawmakers from the Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution and Limited Government are seeking input from 2 high-profile investigative journalists. fired CBS correspondent Catherine Herridge and former CBS News reporter Cheryl Atkinson, who left the network 10 years ago amid claims of censorship.
Let's tune into the hearing.
The subcommittee will come to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare recess at any time. We welcome everybody to today's hearing on a free press and protecting journalists. I'll remind everybody that the guests in the chamber are guests, and you're free to be here, but this is no audience participation in the hearing. This is a hearing, and we're going to conduct it accordingly. I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. Our liberty depends on the freedom of the press, and that cannot be limited without being lost. Those words were true when Thomas Jefferson wrote them in 1786, and they are still true today. The First Amendment to the Constitution guarantees freedom of the press and prohibits the federal government from making any law abridging that freedom. In his concurrence in the New York Times versus the United States, Justice Hugo Black stated, "In the First Amendment, the Founding Fathers gave the free press the protection it must have to fulfill its essential role in our democracy. The press was to serve the governed, not the governors." The framers of the Constitution hailed the freedom of the press as the most important political liberty and the keystone upon which all our other freedoms rely. As is still the case today, journalists are often the first to expose government abuse, waste, fraud, and encroachments on the personal freedoms we hold dear. Sadly, the freedom of the press is under attack in our country from multiple angles: the White House, activist judges, and mainstream media networks. For example, the Obama White House illegally spied on investigative journalist Cheryl Atkinson by allegedly hacking into her cell phone and computer to determine the identity of a confidential source. We also saw the Obama administration take an adversarial position regarding freedom of the press when it sought to silence anyone blowing the whistle on the federal government's waste and abuse by seizing the phone records of Associated Press reporters and editors who used source materials to write stories. The phone records seized were not just those owned by the Associated Press, but also personal home and cell phones. The seizure of these records was such an alarming step by the federal government that a coalition of 50 news organizations, including ABC, CNN, the New York Times, and the Washington Post, submitted a letter of protest to then Attorney General Eric Holder about the raid, which stated that the administration's action called into question the very integrity of the Department of Justice policies toward the press and its ability to balance on its own its police powers against the First Amendment rights of the news media and the public's interest in reporting on all manner of conduct. The Obama administration's war on a free press showed us that executive interference has a chilling effect that disincentivizes whistleblowers and sources from coming forward with critical information. That chilling and eventually freezing out effect harms the quality and integrity of journalism on a major scale. Meanwhile, we have seen the Biden-Garland Justice Department arrest and prosecute journalist Steve Baker, who was reporting from the U.S. Capitol building on January 6th on the events that took place inside the Capitol. We also recently saw a federal court order investigative journalist Catherine Herridge to identify a confidential source and then hold her in contempt when she exercised her First Amendment right to maintain the source's confidentiality. First Amendment advocates on both sides of the aisle have warned that government actions such as this could have devastating consequences for a free press. Around that same time, CBS News terminated Ms. Herridge's employment and took unprecedented actions with regards to her belongings, including source materials. CBS News officials reportedly boxed up and seized some of the materials in her office, including her investigative files and laptop computer, with the intent to search through items to segregate materials Ms. Herridge developed or worked on for CBS News. CBS News' planned search through Ms. Herridge's materials threatened to trample upon her First Amendment rights and could have divulged confidential sources stemming from her previous work with other networks. Along those same lines, we have also seen the federal government seek to impermissibly shape news stories, even coercing social media companies to censor and remove content on their platforms relating to foreign influence peddling by the president and his family. Today's hearing is about defending our fundamental liberty and protecting journalists and their sources from these attacks. We will examine the federal government's infringement on the freedom of the press and examine the prospects for a federal shield law. On July 19th, 2023, the House Committee on the Judiciary, with a vote of 23-0, that doesn't often happen in the House Judiciary Committee, 23-0, favorably reported on the Protect Reports from Exploitative State Spying or PRESS Act. In January of this year, the full House passed the PRESS Act by a voice vote. The PRESS Act was written to prohibit the federal government from compelling journalists to identify a source, as well as any records, contents of a communication, documents, or information obtained or created by journalists in the course of their work. The significance of the PRESS Act cannot be understated. It ensures a free press, independent from an executive branch that seeks to attack or harass journalists in order to identify their confidential sources. Now that the House has done its job and stood up to fight for the freedom of the press, it is now the Senate's turn to take up this legislation to continue Congress's commitment to protecting our fundamental freedoms. Our constitutional guarantee of a free press is under attack. It is our job to stand up for that right and protect journalists and their sources. I look forward to hearing from all of our distinguished witnesses today, who will all bring unique personal and professional perspectives to this important issue. Please note that a joint schedule of Congress is scheduled for 11 o'clock a.m., and the committee will recess for the duration of that session and gavel back in shortly after. I now yield to the ranking member for her opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The necessity for and guarantee of a free press is one of the fundamental pillars of our democratic republic, predating and inspiring both our Constitution and the First Amendment. We all know that a democracy only truly works when its citizens are properly informed, and a free press contributes to this goal by ensuring truth and accountability from those in power. A free press informs the American people of important policy issues and government actions that may impact their lives, and crucially, can reveal incompetence, corruption, deceit, fraud, or bad faith by political candidates and government officials. Thus, attempts by government actors and would-be leaders to undermine the press, whether by promoting conspiracy theories and lies, attacking members of the press with whom they disagree, or undermining the press's ability to obtain vital information, are an assault on the pillars of our democratic foundation. One particularly pernicious way this occurs is when the government seeks to compel journalists to disclose the identity of confidential sources. And I think it's important at the outset here to talk about the different ways where the government can compel. It's one thing for the government to seek access to confidential sources. It's another when a court is enforcing the law that is written because Congress hasn't acted to create a shield law. So confidential sources provide crucial information to reporters that helps them to share full and impactful stories with the public, and government attempts to undermine the confidentiality of those sources erodes the press's ability to perform that function. If the press cannot protect its sources, then important truths may never come to light, and Americans and our democracy suffer. Unfortunately, under both Republican and Democratic administrations, going back decades, we've seen the government, in attempts to crack down on leaks, seize phone and email records from journalists or seek to compel them to reveal the identities of their sources. For example, the Trump administration's Department of Justice seized phone records from 3 Washington Post reporters and tried to obtain their emails in an attempt to identify confidential sources. The Trump DOJ similarly attempted to obtain these types of records from reporters at CNN and the New York Times. And that's, of course, on top of that administration's other troubling threats to press freedom, such as tracking, detaining, and interrogating journalists reporting on conditions at the U.S.-Mexico border. In response to these and other instances, the House, 4 times since 2007, passed with overwhelming bipartisan support a federal reporters' shield law. That's legislation to protect journalists and prevent the government from compelling them to reveal their confidential sources, with certain exceptions. In fact, former Vice President Mike Pence, then a member of this committee, first introduced such legislation in 2005. More recently, Representatives Kevin Kiley and Jamie Raskin helped spearhead passage of H.R. 4250, the Protect Reporters from Exploitative State Spying Act, or PRESS Act. And as mentioned, that bill passed the House this past January unanimously by voice vote under suspension of the rules. And that is, as the chairman noted, after this committee had reported it favorably by a bipartisan 23-0 vote. The Press Act would, among other things, create a qualified federal statutory privilege that protects journalists from being compelled by a federal entity to reveal confidential sources and information. The bill also protects third-party service providers, such as telecommunications carriers and interactive computer services, from being compelled by the government to reveal information on a journalist's account or device. Unfortunately, despite the House repeatedly and with strong bipartisan support passing some form of federal reporters' shield legislation, the Senate has yet to act. Today's hearing should be an opportunity to spur the Senate to action. We're concerned that our Republican colleagues appear to have squandered that chance at a substantive hearing and instead are trying to crank up some right-wing conspiracy theories. But make no mistake, we intend to move forward and try to promote both the Press Act and our constitutional protections. There is, of course, little evidence of ideological bias at CBS News, as has been suggested, and even if those allegations were true, Congress would risk exceeding its constitutional authority by intervening. Private news organizations, whether CBS, MSNBC, or Fox, speak through their journalist employees.
My dad's name was David. He always talked about getting life insurance, and now it's too late.
No one was expecting my husband Dave to suffer from a heart attack. We didn't have life insurance. We thought we had more time.
Don't be Dave, and don't wait until it's too late to get the life insurance coverage you need. And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Call now to get affordable life insurance.
Just call 800-494-1562.
If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam, no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Remember, don't be Dave. Call now.
Call now. 800-494-1562.
This is it, the culmination of everything our young athlete has worked for these past months. He's filled with determination. You can see it in his face. Is today the day he overcomes? And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's on fire. Nothing can stop him. Watch him as he heads towards the goal. Oh, he's blocked hard, but that doesn't stop him. He's a warrior. He's back up. His eyes are on the goal. He's set up for the shot. He shoots. Goal!
Achieving goals like this is only possible with the monthly support of people just like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support to Shriners Hospitals for Children so other children can reach their goals too.
If you give just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we will send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of the love you're giving us. Because of monthly support of people like you, nothing is stopping me from achieving my goals.
And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's going left. Oh, he fakes right and continues. Look at those moves. He takes the shot. Goal! Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to give right away. Your monthly gift helps kids achieve their goals. Goal!
We're tuned in to a House Judiciary Subcommittee hearing on protecting journalists and their sources. We heard accounts of the federal government's infringement on the First Amendment's guarantee of freedom of the press.
And we'll tune right back into that hearing, which also addresses a proposed federal shield law, which would protect journalists from being compelled to disclose their sources to government agencies. Let's watch it right now.
In 2011, you reported on the Obama, and I want to back up just a sec. We act like this is new stuff. But this has been going on for a long time. I mean, we've had a lot of talks about DOJ and Twitter and Section 230 and liability and immunity and all of those things. But in 2011, you reported on the Obama administration's Operation Fast and Furious operation, in which ATF purposely allowed licensed firearm dealers to sell weapons to illegal straw bars. Were confidential sources and information critical to informing the public about that scandal?
Yes.
Would you have been able to shed light on the federal government selling weapons, including grenade launchers and anti-aircraft weapons, to the Mexican drug cartels without guaranteeing confidentiality of your sources?
It would have been tough. There would have been something to report, but not what we ended up reporting.
And when you were reporting on the security lapses in the 2012 Benghazi embassy attack, do you think you would have been able to shed light on the federal government's failure to maintain embassy security without guaranteeing confidentiality of your sources?
Some of it, yes, but some of it, no.
Do you, like me, believe it's important for the American people to be informed of these things along with waste, fraud, and abuse by the federal government, and we should do what we can to ensure robust media scrutiny of those government officials?
Yes.
Even if that includes members of Congress?
Right.
Does the status quo where sources need to depend on a reporter and their outlet's financial tolerance or physical tolerance for contempt punishment equate to a functional, sensible system?
No, and one quick example, a lot of times a source will end up going on the record, which is preferable, but you can't begin the conversation many times if you can't start out by telling him as you begin to talk that he's not going to be identified yet.
Does the current system have a chilling effect on potential confidential sources and whistleblowers?
Yes.
If we pass the Press Act, you talked a little bit about the Press Act and where you think it's deficient and whatever, but you agree it would be helpful at least.
It seems like it would be helpful.
You know, in the last minute and 30 seconds, I think we can deal with this. I think there's certain things that we have to recognize. I'm a former criminal defense attorney. Confidentiality with my clients is absolutely essential in order to deal with those things. And I think there are a lot of different similarities, but you have to be as mentally tough as anybody to be an investigative reporter. And we're sitting here right now talking about these things. At the same time, we got a letter from the DOJ saying that they can't release an audio tape after they've already given us the transcript from a computer where it was tried to be erased but only found later, because it would have a chilling effect on potential witnesses coming forward to talk about a crime. That's what the letter said. And at the same time, we have a DOJ going to investigative reporters saying, I know you guaranteed these people confidentiality to report against their government doing something bad against the US citizens, but I am going to force you to expose that, or I'm going to hold you in civil contempt, criminal contempt, or all of those things. Does that seem a little bit hypocritical to you, Ms. Atkinson?
There are many things that seem to be double standard-ish, one way for them and another way for us.
I mean, they're literally saying we can't release something because otherwise we won't ever be able to investigate anything again, which, by the way, is patently false. But also at the same time, when they don't like something any of you all are writing, right, left, center, conservative, liberal, they say, I want to know who your source is.
I get it.
I do too, and I think it's very, very unfortunate. And with that, I yield back.
I'll now recognize my colleague from Texas, Ms. Jackson-Lee.
Chairman Roy, I'm very grateful for your courtesies and the courtesies of this committee. To the ranking member, the courtesies of Ms. Scanlon. The good news that I heard as we were concluding your last question, Ms. Atkinson, is that the Press Act does help.
It seems like it would, Ms. Lee.
Yes, and so we need to, the word investigative, I hope that you want us as members of Congress to investigate so we get it right. So that this very hallowed amendment or Bill of Rights in the First Amendment is taken seriously. I take it very seriously, and I appreciate the work that all of you do in spite of the obstacles that you face. This is America, and we have mountains and valleys. I would like to get a sense from all of you where we are in the comfort level of your protection. I'm going to start with Johnson. I appreciate the Institute at Columbia, I believe. And I want to make sure we've got the Press Act that may be needing to be reimagined. We're looking at other legislation that allows investigative reporters to work, but not I think there's a fine line between, I want to use the term abuse on both sides, but there's a fine line. So I'm going to start with you, Ms. Johnson. What more care do we need to give to have the work of an investigative reporter work? And I'm going to ask each of you that question. I think that will help us. I'll be finished, and I'll have to get another hearing at another point to go into more deeply concerned issues. But Ms. Johnson, if you would, quickly.
So I think the first thing that we need to do is to ensure the Press Act gets passed into law and signed. But I think it's also important to remember and to recognize this is a fraught time for journalists. We have new surveillance technologies. We have a question of funding for journalism itself. And so it's really important to do what Congress can do in the immediate term to protect information that is vital to our democracy, which is to protect journalists and allow them to do the job we need them to do.
And are you concluding your testimony by saying that would be to pass the Press Act and have funding?
The first thing Congress should do, yes, is to pass the Press Act, ensure that it is signed into law in order to protect journalists and allow them to be able to give assurances to their sources that they will not be revealed. There is, of course, a bigger question about funding for journalism as a profession as a whole. Yes.
All right. Ms. Atkinson, where do we need to go with this?
One outstanding issue is regardless of what laws are passed, we know from the factual record that there are bad actors inside our agencies that will violate laws. So a law doesn't necessarily provide full protection. And number two, when a citizen tries to get redress for something like that in civil courts, as I'm doing, I found the federal government has inordinate protections, their own shield laws, I'll call them. They have immunity. We have to get permission from them, the alleged guilty party, to get depositions and information. And I think this is something that needs to be fixed by Congress, the broad immunity granted to people who may be doing wrong inside government.
And is there any detriment to the IE, I'm on another, on the AI, is there another detriment to the fact that AI exists amongst us?
I'll bet there is, but I'm not an expert on that.
All right. We're back-to-back hearings. And if you would, Ms. Cavallaro, sorry, didn't see it. Thank you, Ms. Cavallaro. What more do we need to do?
So SAG-AFTRA has for decades supported a federal shield law, and we would first hope that the Press Act passes. I think that's a priority. I think we need to take that first step. I do think there are other challenges facing journalism and journalists that we would love to use our voice as a labor union representing journalists to advocate for, but I do think that it's a priority. I think the idea that this passed unanimously and there is bipartisan support should mean it's something that we should be able to move forward quickly and expeditiously.
We're going to do a deep dive on that. I want to just quickly finish, I think, with Ms. Atkinson.
Herridge. Herridge.
I'm looking at Ms. Herridge.
Yes, thank you.
If you would.
Sure, thank you for the question. I agree with my colleagues. I think the imperative is to get the Press Act through the Senate and on the President's desk. It's going to close a gap in the federal courts. It's going to bring consistency between the state shield and the federal shield laws, and I just think a lot of good will follow from that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm very grateful for the time given. I think we are committed to doing a deep dive on this very important issue. First Amendment rights are pivotal, and I want to be part of helping as opposed to undermining. Thank you so very much, and I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady from Texas. I'll now recognize the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Atkinson, you wrote stories critical of the Obama administration. Is that accurate?
Yes, but may I point out it wasn't put in a political light, and there were also stories that some would consider critical of the Bush administration.
Well, let's say it this way. You wrote stories critical of the government.
Yes.
Yeah. And you factually reported it. And then you did it on Fast and Furious, you did it on Benghazi and other issues.
Yes.
And even before, as you said, on the Bush administration. And then strange things started happening to you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like your computer, you think your phone gets bugged, you believe, and things happen to your computer after you wrote stories critical of the government.
Right.
That's scary, right?
Yeah, it's not a
frightening
comfortable
everybody.
feeling, right?
Ms. Herridge, you wrote stories critical of the Biden administration. Is that true?
That's fair.
I mean, you wrote a number of things about the laptop issue, about Hunter Biden, all kinds of things you wrote, critical of the Biden family, the Biden business operation, the Biden brand, and all that stuff.
Congressman, I reported out the facts of the story.
You sure did. You sure did. You reported the facts. And then CBS fired you, is that right?
My position was terminated.
Yeah, and you're an award-winning journalist. How long did you work at CBS?
I worked at CBS News for 4.5 years. During that period, we won major awards. I was part of an Emmy-winning team. I was nominated for investigative Emmys. I think the most important projects were projects that drove legislation here on the Hill that positively impacted 1 million veterans.
So award-winning journalist, won all kinds of awards, had worked there almost 5 years, had extensive experience at a different major network prior to that, where you were also an award-winning journalist, done all kinds of reporting critical of the government there as well, and then you get fired. But it's worse.
For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
And stay with us. We'll bring you more in the next 2 hours.
I was born into the wrong body, Mom.
I was astounded by what they were teaching. Child Protective Services did show up at my house. Parents are fearful of losing custody of their children because they say the wrong thing. Risks?
No risks. We got everything covered, I assure you, Mrs. Connors.
They don't want anyone to know the truth.
I can't stay quiet about this anymore. It's destroyed my health.
We're pushed into silence.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms, but then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked at my wife was at my side, and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
Losing the fear of looking foolish comes with age.
Who did you steal him from?
Losing your way in your own home doesn't. Confusion with time and place may be a sign of Alzheimer's.
Mom, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
An increasingly aggressive China will take center stage at a one-of-a-kind trilateral summit between the U.S., Japan, and the Philippines. What President Biden plans to announce.
Tensions remain high in the Middle East as Iran vows to retaliate against Israel. We have more on how Israel is preparing.
A showdown over state and federal power is taking place. A group of states are crying foul over a Biden executive order involving voter registration.
Following the 2024 Dirty Dozen list for sexual exploitation, a nonprofit advocate tells us which companies made it on that list.
The U.S. is blacklisting 4 Chinese firms for helping Beijing's military get AI chips. In the meantime, China is turning on American companies.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hi, I'm David Lamb, sitting in for Chris Beers.
And before you head to the top stories, breaking news, NFL Hall of Famer O.J. Simpson has died yesterday at the age of 76.
Simpson was famously acquitted of murder charges in a 1994 trial involving his ex-wife and her friend.
His family released a statement announcing that he died after a battle with cancer while being surrounded by his children and grandchildren.
They have requested privacy and understanding during this difficult time.
And next up, long simmering tensions between China and its neighbors will be in the spotlight today.
Leaders of the U.S., Japan, and the Philippines are gathering at the White House to push back on Beijing's stepped-up pressure on the Philippines in the South China Sea.
President Biden will announce new joint military efforts and infrastructure spending in the Philippines.
At top of the agenda is China's increasing pressure in the South China Sea. Tensions have escalated despite a personal appeal by Biden to Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping last year.
The Philippines and China had several maritime run-ins last month that included the use of water cannons and heated verbal exchanges. The disputes center on a submerged reef in the South China Sea called the Second Thomas Shoal.
A small number of Filipino troops are stationed on a warship that Manila grounded there in 1999 to reinforce its sovereignty claims.
And continuing with the summit, 2 senators on Wednesday introduced a bill to provide the Philippines with $2.5 billion to boost its defenses against Chinese pressure.
It authorizes $500 million a year in foreign military financing to the Philippines until 2029.
The Philippines has become increasingly important strategically in efforts to push back against China and has been in need of funding to modernize its long-neglected armed forces.
One of the bill's sponsors, Senator Bill Haggerty, says it is critical to deepen cooperation with the Philippines at a time of Communist China's growing aggression. We have more updates on the war in Gaza. As the fighting continues between Israel and Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addresses troops in southern Israel.
I said we are in challenging times. We are in the midst of the war in Gaza, which continues in full force. At the same time, we continue our unceasing efforts to return our hostages. But we are also preparing for scenarios of challenges in other arenas. And we established a simple principle. Whoever hurts us, we hurt him. We are preparing to meet the security needs of the State of Israel, both in defense and in attack. I and the people of Israel trust you. And may we all have great success.
This comes as Iran prepares to retaliate against Israel over the killings of Iranian generals in a strike on its consulate in Syria.
Iran has vowed to revenge after the strike killed 7 people. Russia and Germany on Thursday urged countries in the Middle East to show restraint.
And back in Gaza, Israel will soon build a new land crossing to the northern part of the territory. This would help deliver humanitarian aid from overseas or neighboring Jordan.
Meanwhile, Israeli media reported earlier today that Israeli forces killed 3 sons of a Hamas leader without consulting senior commanders or Netanyahu.
And now we'll hear from Avi Billaimed, a former Israeli intelligence official and senior official on Arab affairs. Avi, welcome. Thank you for joining us. How serious is this threat of a strike from Iran?
Thank you for having me. We should take it seriously, of course. The Iranian regime openly vows to retaliate. It has a different means and ways to do that, so we should take it very seriously.
Okay, and what are the signs that it is serious? Obviously, any attack is serious, but one especially from Iran.
Well, I cannot refer exactly to an overt signs. There has been reports about some limiting of Iranian aerial traffic the last 24 hours. Those reports have not been confirmed nor denied. But in the end of the day, we have to remember the Iranian regime have a network of proxies across the Middle East, Hezbollah, Iraqi Shiite militias, the Houthis in Yemen. They could use each and every one of them potentially, theoretically, to use them as a way to retaliate, even though I have to emphasize that if I'm putting myself in the shoes of the Iranian regime, there are some significant calculations the Iranian regime has to consider when it comes to execute a potential retaliation. And I think that the Iranian regime, to a large extent, is facing some sort of a dilemma, particularly following a very strong Israeli statement that says to the Iranians, if you are going to attack Israel directly from Iran, Israel is going to attack you in Iran.
And Israel's response would be significantly different depending on whether Iran's proxies attack or Iran itself attacks. Is that correct?
Roughly speaking, these have been the rule games up until now, because reminding us all, Israel has been under constant attacks of Iranian proxies. We are talking about Hezbollah, we are talking about Iraqi Shiite militias, we are talking about Hamas and Islamic Jihad, we are talking about the Houthis. So up until now, those were the game rule. The Iranian regime should take into consideration the possibility that this time, and it depends what will be the scale and intensity of potential attack on Israel, this time Israel will not necessarily play ball with the Iranian regime, and the Israeli counter reaction may be a little bit different from what the Iranian regime is familiar with or anticipating. To a large extent, it is dependent upon what should be, what will be, the scale and impact of an Iranian, either directly or through proxies on Israel.
And this may seem like a simple question, but what could that lead to? This is a really big step up potentially in the conflict in that region, right?
Yes, I think we have to understand something significant. What we see, this whole escalation that we see on the ground didn't start yesterday. It didn't start also in October 7. It started well before there, because what we see today is a process that has been growing, and it's mostly fueled by the Iranian regime aggression across the Middle East, the Iranian regime interest to become the regional superpower, and the fact that the Iranian regime has been able to create network of proxies, armies of terror across the Middle East, like Hamas, like Islamic Jihad, like Hezbollah. What we see today is the bitter fruit of many decades where the Iranian regime was enabled and able to develop this network. And so today we are closer to a situation of a severe deterioration.
Now, I just want to look a moment at the Israeli offensive in Rafah, which has been put off due in part to pressure from the U.S. Do you think that has significantly impacted the dynamics of the war there?
Well, I don't know to say necessarily, because this is something that is still pending, sort of speaking. Israel basically said very clearly and decisively that it aims and going to operate in Rafah. We have to remember that in the end of the day, a major objective that was set by both Israel as well as the United States of America and international community, or at least major players in the international community following October 7, was to end Hamas rule in Gaza Strip. Because Hamas rule in Gaza Strip result havoc, death, and destruction. And if Hamas will be able to continue to rule Gaza Strip, you cannot expect a different outcome.
Okay, and
so I think that in that regard...
Sorry,
yes,
just briefly, Avi, before we finish up, considering the threat from Iran, what they've said recently, and the statement back from Israel, what, if anything, do you think President Biden could offer in this situation to help properly put a stop to the attacks, including attacks from Iran's proxies?
The most simple thing is to send a very strong, clear message, exactly the same one that President Biden sent very shortly after October 7, saying to the Iranians, the Hezbollah, don't and backing that with deployment of military massive power of the United States in the region, that could very significantly help to calm the situation down.
Great, thank you so much. Avi Melamed, former Israeli intelligence official and senior official on Arab affairs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lufthansa has extended the cancellation of daily flights from Frankfurt to Iran this coming Saturday. It said the decision was made to avoid a situation where the airline's crew had to stay overnight in the Iranian capital.
The German carrier suspended flights to Tehran due to the situation in the Middle East on Wednesday.
Lufthansa said it was constantly monitoring the situation in the Middle East and is in close contact with authorities. A Republican and a Democrat worked together to introduce a bill aimed at fighting anti-Semitism.
Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen and Republican Senator James Lankford hope to get the Countering Anti-Semitism Act signed into law.
Rosen said, quote, "There have been countless disturbing stories of Jewish families accosted and assaulted on streets, Jewish businesses and places of worship vandalized and desecrated, and Jewish students threatened at colleges and universities."
According to CNN, the bill would establish a federal anti-Semitism coordinator who would run a task force aimed at stopping anti-Jewish hate in America. The bill would also establish May as Jewish American Heritage Month.
The head of the Anti-Defamation League said the bill is the most far-reaching anti-Semitism initiative ever to be introduced in Congress.
A former Cornell University student has pleaded guilty to posting threats to kill or injure Jewish people. The Justice Department said yesterday that Patrick Dye is being held accountable for threats of violence against members of the Cornell University Jewish community. Officials say Patrick Dye used the internet to make horrific threats to kill and injure Jewish students at Cornell.
As a part of his guilty plea, Dye admitted he posted threatening messages to the Cornell section of an online discussion forum in October 2023. Dye threatened to stab and slit the throat of any Jewish man he saw on campus and assault and throw off a cliff any Jewish woman that he saw.
He also threatened to behead Jewish babies. In one post, Dye threatened to bring an assault rifle to campus and shoot all Jewish people.
A sentencing hearing is scheduled for August 12th. Dye faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. And the Anti-Defamation League, or ADL, evaluated 85 American universities on anti-Semitism, including schools with the highest proportion of Jewish students.
Harvard, Princeton, MIT, Stanford, and UVA were among the dozen schools that received failing grades. Just 2 schools got an A, Brandeis and Elon.
The ADL says the incidents of anti-Semitism have left Jewish students feeling unsafe and Jewish parents questioning where they should send their kids to college. A power struggle over voter registration is playing out between the White House and some secretaries of state. The top state officials say the federal government is trying to take over the voter registration process from states. It all started with Biden's 2021 executive order aimed at expanding voter registration and election information. The states say the executive order goes against the Constitution, which says matters of voting shall be left to the state legislatures. The executive order requires every federal agency head to design plans related to voter registration, ensure access for some people in federal prison, and design a ballot tracking system for absentee voters. West Virginia Secretary of State Mac Warner says that power is not given to the federal government in the Constitution. Warner says West Virginia will not give accept voter registration forms collected by federal agents. Warner has vowed to fight the federal government all the way to the Supreme Court. And coming up, a nonprofit releases its Dirty Dozen list for 2024 for sexual exploitation. An advocate tells us which companies made it on the list and why.
Today, Congress heard testimony on countering transnational crime networks and corruption. What was discussed? We'll find out. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
بیست و سه سال 16 سال عمري ما هفت
ما داعش کردیم برانبر خشک و دایکانی ازدی ما کاری که دور لهمو چمت دموکراسی و موافقانی مرو و انسانیت او بارودوخی که است های به تایبت لعراق و سوریه بشه که دگره با و حالانه که اداره اوباما کرد
ریم بو و هفت روز بو و داعش از کرد
تامبوم كرا قوتينيز قريا بما متشكر بهر فيدان نبو باوان رحم نبو
قدامنا سؤالان من خادران نزل باوان وفستم بس نا قوبس ناش بجوش باش.
They would literally be auctioned in front of soldiers, and then the soldiers begin to bid.
زارود وان همو جيبري تي حملي زارود الدم واسسي وان همو جيبري
وحشیگریه که توا عیاره ظلمی که یک جار گل گوره لما افرطانه کرا و تعدایی که زور زوریان لیده که همانه روزانه دست فروشیده
اليوم التوزيع كل الرصيد
Imagine being a child, having a child mentality, and these evil people come and wheel you away from the only safety you've ever known.
My baby's back from the West Coast.
Here are those pictures that you asked for your school project? First day of school, cute as a button.
So long ago.
Oh, here's Grandma Florence after that flood wiped out the whole neighborhood.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here.
I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Those beans smell heavenly.
Give Mom a little credit.
You know what? We should make an emergency communication plan. That way we're ready this year.
Great idea.
At my dorm, we have emergency kits for earthquakes and wildfires, but I'm sure there's something more local I can send you with the link.
Okay.
Smart.
I'm coming to share with you guys.
Protect your legacy. Plan for natural disasters today. Visit ready.gov/plan.
Today on Capitol Hill, lawmakers discuss how to counter corruption and criminal networks. Witnesses include officials from the U.S. State Department.
The hearing was held by the Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee on Western Hemisphere, Transnational Crime, Civilian Security, Democracy, Human Rights, and Global Women's Issues. Let's watch.
Today's hearing focuses on the U.S. strategy to counter transnational criminal networks and corruption in the Western Hemisphere. As always, I want to thank Ranking Member Senator Rubio and his team for their excellent partnership and for their help framing up this hearing. The work that we've done on the region together is something I'm very proud of. The U.S. and our 34 neighbors in the region, in this hemisphere, share deep ties, close history, family connections. Crime and corruption pose a growing and present threat to our friends across the hemisphere and to the safety and security of Americans right here at home. Transnational criminal organizations, TCOs, use corruption, intimidation, violence as tools to influence government officials and create a more favorable environment for illicit activities. We've seen time and again that this type of insidious erosion of public trust in government and democratic institutions has led to political instability and a surge in migration flows toward America's southern border. It also creates avenues for encroachment by foreign adversaries like the PRC and Russia that brazenly exploit these weaknesses. In December 2021, the White House released a U.S. strategy on countering corruption, which establishes 5 pillars. First, modernizing, coordinating, and resourcing U.S. government efforts to fight corruption. Second, curbing illicit finance. Third, holding corrupt actors accountable. Fourth, preserving the strength of multilateral anti-corruption networks. And finally, improving diplomatic engagement. The administration's national security strategy, released in October 2022, pledges to accelerate global U.S. government efforts against TCOs and integrate law enforcement efforts with diplomatic, financial intelligence, and other tools in coordination with our foreign allies and partners. These are ambitious goals. Today we're going to talk about how we're doing, how they're being implemented, and what more we need to do together. It's not an abstract issue. Transparency International's 2023 Corruption Perceptions Index highlights citizens' perceptions of public sector corruption around the world in several Western Hemisphere countries. The scores for 10 countries in the region ranked among the bottom third of the 180 countries included in the index. Among the worst performing countries in the region are Venezuela and Nicaragua, where corruption is entrenched in autocratic regimes, Haiti, where violent gangs threaten to overthrow the government, and Mexico, where the cartels have expanded their reach and influence. U.S. assistance and engagement are critical to countering these threats to our national security. We have an essential role to play in bolstering the stability of the region in the face of these challenges. Every crisis faced by the region and its people deeply and directly impacts the U.S. The U.S. can't stand on the sidelines. It's essential that we work in partnership with our neighbors to strengthen democratic institutions and the rule of law. We owe it to those partners and allies and to our friends and family in the region and here at home to take the initiative and bring the fight directly to pernicious actors who are creating these threats. Now let me turn it over to Ranking Member Senator Rubio for his remarks before I introduce the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing, and thank you all for coming in to talk about this as it continues to grow and metastasize as a problem in the region. We can take a trip through it real quick. I mean, in Colombia, they've made tremendous progress over the years. It's a nation that lived basically through cartel wars in the 90s and at a time when bombings were going on, and then they've had to confront all these groups. And after that, there were the successors of that group, not to mention the FARC and the ELN and all these other criminal and terrorist organizations that have operated there for a long time. And now they face particularly the Clan del Golfo, which was kind of I guess the heir to some of the cartels of the 90s as they continue to link up. Colombia remains the largest producer and exporter of cocaine in the world, and they've now created these lucrative markets, and that they have linked up with these Mexican cartels with the cooperation, unfortunately, of the Venezuelan regime, which itself has been caught in cooperating with the transport of cocaine out of Colombia. It's part of Maduro's revenue sources for the regime. In fact, I believe just a few days ago there was another conviction of a high-ranking official who had been a member of that Cartel de los Soles. He was convicted, I believe, in Manhattan for the work they've done. A new entity, which is transnational now, unfortunately, is the gang Tren de Aragua. This is a vicious gang. It's established itself initially in the prisons of Venezuela, but then became endemic in Peru, in Ecuador, Panama, Bolivia, Brazil. They all face these elements, and now we are seeing evidence that they have made it into the United States. Every single day we're seeing reports from Chicago, from South Florida, from New York, that these gang members are here. And this is a particularly vicious gang that specialize in extortion and kidnapping and rape and murder for hire and everything else you can imagine. And so another significant problem that we face. Moving on, I mean, I think it's important to note that Ecuador, which was a place we didn't normally associate with problematic, they have become a transit point. And so what happens is these localized gangs start killing each other, but also start attacking the state as they become transitors, as they become sort of the middlemen between the cocaine that comes across that border from Colombia and the Mexican cartels. And they threaten the state. Took over, you saw very recently, it came to a point of crisis, and I believe they're still operating under a state of emergency as a result of that. Nicaragua is an interesting dynamic. It's a transit country for cocaine trafficking, we know that. But in addition, and there's a strong Mexican cartel presence in Nicaragua, but adding to that, it's become a human trafficking hub. Particularly when they lifted all their visa requirements, people know if I fly into Nicaragua from anywhere in the world, I can go there, there won't be a visa requirement, and from there I can be trafficked into the United States. So that becomes a problem. I think it's well known, the challenges we face in Mexico, where both the cartel in Sinaloa and Jalisco honestly control a significant amount of territory. I know it's not transnational in nature, but I think it's important to mention what the chairman already mentioned, and that is today Port-au-Prince, 80% of Port-au-Prince, maybe more at this point, is controlled by criminal gangs, a combination of criminal gangs. There's not a single elected official in Haiti. There's this transitional commission that's coming together. But there are now rumors that a couple of them who are on it may actually end up leaving the country because of how unsafe it's become. I think it's important to note that both the small armed forces of Haiti and their police department, despite limited resources and inability to be resupplied, have shown extraordinary courage and bravery in confronting these gangs. That's not being reported enough. But they've got no weapons, they've got no ammunition, they've got no body armor, they've got no way to resupply them. And I hope we're looking at ways to do that, because no matter what Kenya or other countries decide to do, they better have somebody to link up with on the ground. They better have an airport that's open. And I know there's a prohibition right now on exporting weaponry and equipment to the Haitian Army, National Army, and I understand the history of how armies have played out in the history of Haiti, but they have been a quite capable force over the last few weeks. And right now, without them, I don't know if the police could have withstood some of the challenges that they have faced. And I hope we'll reconsider that, because there's countries that I believe are willing to step forward and provide them some of the equipment they need, but are scared off by the U.S. prohibition. So there's a lot to cover. I'm not sure we can cover it all today, but the bottom line is that all this becomes endemic in our national security, because ultimately, whatever happens in the region, it finds itself here. It finds itself here in our banking system. It finds itself here in our streets, both in the presence of drugs and these criminal organizations that migrate towards here. It is part of the driver of a migratory crisis. One of the reasons people leave these countries is because they feel threatened by these criminal groups, and it's a growing problem. Whereas 25 years ago, we could pinpoint one or two places where we had these, now they are in multiple countries. And they are operating like a vertically, in some cases like the cocaine trafficking, a vertically integrated industry. The Mexicans have basically, the cartels have basically vertically integrated the business. Where they were once just the traffickers over the border, they are now basically everything but the producer of the actual cocaine. And in the case of the fentanyl, they are the producer, and of the meth. So there's a lot to cover, but I appreciate you coming in and talking to us about it. And I did want to note, we did ask the DEA to be a part of this. They were not allowed to come. I don't know if that's a jurisdictional thing because we don't have oversight, but I think it's impossible to really focus in on any of this. And if you travel anywhere in the region and they hold meetings for us, there's DEA officials there because they are at the front lines of a lot of this. I think it's pretty difficult for us to really confront this challenge without having testimony from the DEA. And I hope that in a future hearing they'll reconsider that prohibition on coming before us. So thank you.
And now I will turn it to you, Mr. Neff. You can confine your opening statements to 5 minutes, and we'll look forward to having a good dialogue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Kane, Ranking Member Rubio, members of the subcommittee, thank you for holding this hearing to discuss how we are addressing transnational organized crime and corruption in the Western Hemisphere. It's an honor to be back. Just a few weeks ago, after I was attending a hearing with the full Senate Foreign Relations Committee to discuss our implementation of our anti-corruption strategy. Though my purview is global, I recognize the unique importance that countering corruption in the Western Hemisphere has for U.S. national security. Corruption crowds out good investment and fair competition.
Performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. Shen Yun, coming to Lincoln Center, April 3rd through the 14th. Buy tickets now at shenyun.com.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms. But then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side. And my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
You have one new message.
Dr. Bonatti, this is Norm Evans. I played for the Dolphins and the Seahawks. Anyway, I was just calling to say thank you to you again because I'm feeling great. No more back or neck problems after all these years, and I'm doing well thanks to you. I just wanted to say thank you and let you know I was thinking about you. I always do. Okay, God bless you, friend. Keep up the good work.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
We're continuing to look at a congressional hearing today. Congress examined how to counter corruption and criminal networks.
The hearing was held by a Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee. Witnesses included officials from the State Department. Let's take a look.
Potentially forcing young people toward criminal activity as a form of livelihood. Corruption also devastates the state's ability to deliver basic services for their citizens, including to confront criminality and violence effectively in a way that respects the rule of law. These factors, in turn, can drive irregular migration and human smuggling, which are again compounded by corruption and impunity. Corruption also creates opportunities for terrorists, narco-traffickers, and other criminal enterprises to operate. That is why the United States has made countering corruption a foundational part of our approach across the Americas, alongside efforts to encourage new, positive economic investment, strengthen the rule of law, and support vibrant democracy. Like citizens across the region, we reject the false premise that people must sacrifice their rights in order to enjoy security or curb corruption. Rather, rule of law and civil liberties can and must go hand in hand. Through my work and recent travels, I have observed several notable trends, which my team is working on with the department to confront head-on. In the interest of time, I'll mention just a few of these here and ask that my written statement be entered into the record. First, I've seen and heard from so many anti-corruption defenders who are facing significant and increasing threats, some of which are physical. These include individuals in and out of government who are fighting to investigate and call out corruption, promote accountability, and support the rule of law. In response, one of the major lines of effort that my team and I have been focused on is how we can better support these defenders, which includes working with interagency partners to think creatively about what resources we have available and what else we can do. I'd be eager for any of your ideas as well as to what we might do to utilize and maximize existing support mechanisms or identify new ones. Second, I've heard many times from both government and non-governmental partners about the real impact and need for continual and coordinated U.S. attention to help reinforce partner efforts and to provide accountability. Each element of our government plays a crucial role. U.S. sanctions and visa restrictions are critical accountability tools. Diplomatic engagement and foreign assistance are vital complements to these actions. And each of these efforts works best when conducted in coordination with criminal law enforcement action. Given our close ties as neighbors in the hemisphere, U.S. action plays a particularly important role, and our action, or our inaction, is closely watched by both bad actors and those we are trying to support. Lastly, I continue to observe the increasing risk of strategic corruption, and I raise it regularly at home and abroad. Weak governments are often prime targets for foreign authoritarian actors seeking to exert their corrupt influence in new regions. My goal is to make committed partner and ally institutions and systems more resilient to attempts at weaponized corruption, and for the department to continue considering all options to address it. Though most of my comments today focused on the significant, and in some cases worsening, challenges related to corruption and transnational organized crime in the hemisphere, there are places of hope. My most recent trip was to Guatemala, where I participated in the inaugural March 18th high-level economic dialogue. This is our first economic dialogue in Central America, which demonstrates just how important Guatemala and its economic success is to the United States. The dialogue also highlighted that anti-corruption is key to inclusive economic growth. We are now working on concrete plans to take forward the ideas for collaboration discussed there in partnership with President Arévalo's administration, the private sector, and Guatemalan civil society. We face many challenges in our region in confronting corruption and organized crime. I look forward to hearing your ideas and thoughts on these challenges and what more we can do. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Rubio, thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks so much, Mr. Wells.
Chairman Kane, Ranking Member Rubio, esteemed members of the committee, thank you for this timely hearing to discuss how the Department of State addresses corruption and transnational organized crime in the Western Hemisphere. Mr. Chairman, since the beginning of the Biden-Harris administration, our approach in the Western Hemisphere has focused on making democracy deliver for the region's citizens and addressing the challenges that threaten the foundation of that democracy. President Biden and Secretary Blinken have prioritized countering corruption globally using all tools at our disposal. The Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, in collaboration with department and interagency colleagues, has taken concrete actions against corruption in the Americas using diplomatic engagements, sanctions, visa restrictions, law enforcement cooperation, justice sector programming, capacity building for journalists and civil society organizations, and other mechanisms to promote accountability and dissuade future acts of corruption and undemocratic actions in our hemisphere. Since 2023, we have designated over 40 former and current foreign officials in the Western Hemisphere and their family members as ineligible for entry into the United States per Section 7031C of the Department of State Foreign Operations and Related Programs Appropriations Act. We reiterate that merits of the case and not political affiliation direct our implementation of Section 7031C or any of our other visa restriction or sanctions authorities. To give some examples from the region, the United States imposed visa restrictions against individuals in Honduras, Guatemala, and Venezuela for engagement in corruption under INA 212A3C. In Nicaragua alone, we have taken steps to impose visa restrictions under several authorities on more than 1,200 individuals and to sanction 51 individuals and 11 entities for undermining rule of law through corrupt acts and obstructing democratic processes. Across Latin America and the Caribbean, transnational criminal activity has expanded to include firearms and human trafficking, irregular migration, and illegal mining. From Mexico's Sinaloa cartel to Venezuela's Tren de Aragua, we are keenly aware that criminal groups destabilize governance throughout the region. In Colombia, Clan del Golfo, a powerful criminal organization involved in drug trafficking, violence, and corruption, has developed a lucrative income stream from smuggling irregular migrants through the Darien Gap. Since 2021, the United States and Mexico have held 3 high-level security dialogues under the bicentennial framework to guide binational actions in pursuit of the security, health, and development of our societies. The Central American Regional Security Initiative and the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative build community, local, and national crime and violence prevention capacity, as well as provide critical social, educational, and economic opportunities to youth to reduce their risk of involvement in crime and violence. In recent months, Ecuador faced unprecedented violence and instability at the hands of gangs and other actors. In March, the Department of State held the 4th U.S.-Ecuador high-level dialogue, where the United States expressed strong support for the Attorney General as she prosecutes violence committed by transnational criminal organizations and investigates far-reaching corruption among the judiciary and political class. As has been mentioned, nowhere is the threat to democracy from gangs and pervasive corruption more acute today than in Haiti. The deployment of a multinational security support mission remains a critical part of our strategy to restore security, laying the groundwork for a democratic transition of power. We've also leveraged both U.S. and UN sanctions authorities, as well as visa restrictions, to promote accountability for gang leaders and those who support them. Chairman Kane and Ranking Member Rubio, by fostering a culture of accountability, promoting anti-corruption measures, and bolstering security cooperation, the Department of State remains committed to creating a safer and more resilient hemisphere. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before this committee, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lundberg.
Chairman Kane, Ranking Member Rubio, distinguished members of this subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on how the Bureau for International Narcotics Affairs and law enforcement works in the Western Hemisphere to build the rule of law and counter corruption, counter transnational criminal organizations, and also illicit drug trafficking. Countering the flow of illicit drugs, especially synthetic drugs, is a top priority for this administration. INL is employing a comprehensive counter-narcotics approach. Through training, equipping, technical assistance, and bilateral and multilateral diplomacy, INL builds partners' capabilities to disrupt TCO drug trafficking and other illegal activities that are a source of instability throughout the hemisphere. Combating the fentanyl crisis is critical to our counter-narcotics effort, and our work with Mexico is an essential component. The U.S.-Mexico Bicentennial Framework is the foundation for our mutual efforts to protect our people, prevent transborder crime, and pursue the criminal networks. INL provides training and equipment to Mexican justice sector and security personnel to improve border and maritime port security and assist in identifying and safely dismantling clandestine laboratories. INL also supports specialized units in Central America to strengthen interdiction capacity. For example, the INL-supported DEA-vetted unit in Costa Rica dismantled the country's first fentanyl trafficking ring last November. The threat of synthetic drugs requires a global response, which the United States leads through the Global Coalition to Address Synthetic Drug Threats, bringing together 151 countries and 14 international organizations so far to share best practices, detect emerging threats, and promote public health interventions. While INL has ramped up efforts to combat fentanyl, we continue to work with partners to counter cocaine trafficking as well. INL's approach has expanded to focus not just on drug supply reduction, but also on promoting rural security, addressing corruption, and countering money laundering and other financial crimes.
Each year, a nonprofit advocacy group puts out a dirty dozen list of companies they allege to be contributing to sexual exploitation. To find out more, I spoke with Lina Nealon, Vice President and Director of Corporate Advocacy at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Lina, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Now, you've just issued a report listing the top companies in 2024 that you say are fueling the child sexual abuse crisis. How are companies doing this?
So many mainstream corporations that you and I use on a daily basis are enabling, facilitating, or profiting from sexual abuse and exploitation, and that happens in many different ways. It can be that they have inadequate policies, or they're not implementing the policies that they have. Some are actually facilitating the behavior through algorithms and the way that they connect people, and some corporations are merely turning a blind eye to protect their bottom line.
Now, specifically, you accuse some of the world's wealthiest companies of facilitating and profiting from this. What can you tell us about these companies?
Yes, these companies have more power, influence, and resources than many nations, in fact, and that is Meta, Apple, and Microsoft. They are really part of this rapid proliferation and expansion of child sex abuse material that we have been seeing increasing every single year since 2020. Each of these companies is critical in the AI arms race. They're all prioritizing AI development, often at the cost of mostly women and children who are bearing the brunt of deepfake pornography and other types of AI-generated abuses.
Now, as far as the AI arms race, so it could be a double-edged sword. Can it be used to mitigate child abuse through its search functions, or could it perpetuate the deepfake inappropriate content, as you mentioned?
With most technology, of course, it could be used for good, including in combating abuses, and even helping rehabilitate victims and assist survivors. But yes, there is that dark side that it can accelerate. And right now, from what we can tell, the AI is much quicker and being used way more to accelerate the abuses than it is to help them. We are continuously hearing stories of teenagers being like this deep fake pornography being weaponized against teenagers. We've heard many stories of celebrities. This is not something new, but what is new is how easy it is for anyone to access this AI deepfake pornography.
Lina, what kind of impact have your organization's Dirty Dozen lists had over the years? Have you seen change come from this?
So this is a decades-long campaign, or it started a decade ago in 2013. We've had incredible successes. We ask the public to take action, as customers, as users, as consumers, as shareholders and investors, to call on companies to do more to advance human dignity and to stem sexual abuse and exploitation. We've had many incredible victories that have come from this. Corporations do not want to be on this list. Last year, the Apple App Store was on there. They called us, begging us to not put them on the Dirty Dozen list. We've had others come to us throughout the year asking if they would be placed. So there definitely is, there's power in this list, and naming these corporations publicly and galvanizing, people like your listeners to take action and let them know that they're on notice and they need to do better.
All right, Lina, thank you so much for your time and for bringing your insight with us.
Thank you for having me.
Still to come, the U.S. is blacklisting 4 Chinese firms for helping Beijing's military get AI chips. In the meantime, China is turning on American companies. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
The tempting online world is encroaching on our campus. Is unplugging cables and confiscating phones the solution to protect our children? No, we just need a clean multimedia platform. Join Ganjing Campus to leverage premium channel features, professional development courses, and kindness event toolkits tailored for teachers. Build a truly positive and interactive classroom community. Foster a pure and delightful learning environment for children.
Regardless of where you are on your path to retirement, you can still take charge of your financial future today. Visit aceyourretirement.org and answer a few questions from Avo, your friendly digital retirement coach, for free tips, resources, and advice customized for your situation to help you feel confident and prepared for retirement. Retirement looks different for everyone. Make sure you're prepared for your financial future. at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back. China sanctioned 2 U.S. defense companies today over what it called their support for arms sales to Taiwan. This comes on the heels of Washington adding 4 Chinese companies to an export blacklist. The U.S. says the companies sought to acquire artificial intelligence chips for China's military.
The Chinese Communist Party sees Taiwan as part of its own territory, despite never having ruled the island. The U.S. doesn't have formal diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but it sells weapons to the island so it can defend itself.
As for the 2 American firms sanctioned by China, they make tanks and drones. Their assets in China would be frozen and their management wouldn't be able to enter China.
Lawmakers in Maine on Tuesday shot down a bill seeking to ban citizens from China and other adversarial nations from buying land in the state. The measure was rejected by the state's Democrat-controlled House legislature. That's as illegal Chinese marijuana grows are becoming more widespread in Maine. Authorities spotted over 270 suspected operations, estimated to bring in over $4 billion in revenue.
Illegal Chinese marijuana growing operations are cropping up all across the U.S. In Oklahoma, authorities have flagged 3,000 marijuana farms for suspicious activity. Over 60% of them have a Chinese connection. Similar operations are found in California, Washington, Oregon, Massachusetts, Michigan, Colorado, and Nevada. Authorities say illegal marijuana grows often bring other problems with them, such as money laundering, human trafficking, and forced labor.
Before we head to break, if you have any feedback, please email us at news.today@ntd.com.
And stay with us, we'll have more stories in just a moment.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
There's always a searching process for beauty. You know it when you see it.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients. prevent children from dropping out of school. Support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org.
Need a ride? Yeah!
Driving with kids is a big responsibility.
Hop in and buckle up!
So don't sweat the small stuff.
You got paint all over our paper!
Get the big stuff right instead.
What does that mean?
Like making sure your kids are in the correct car seat and buckled up for safer travel.
That deserves a wiggly wiggly wig.
To make sure your child is in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Yeah!
Coming up, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is addressing a joint meeting of Congress. That's one day after his government upgraded its security alliance with the U.S. NTD's Luis Martinez has more on the trilateral leaders summit with the U.S. and the Philippines.
A blow to the prosecution in the classified documents case tied to former President Trump. The judge is allowing a co-defendant to submit the transcript of his FBI interview. And in New York, another appeals court judge denies the Trump team's attempt to delay the so-called hush money trial. Our legal correspondent has the details. West Virginia has put major financial firms onto a restricted list. NTD's Business Matters interviews the state treasurer for more on why the action was taken.
Tensions remain high in the Middle East as Iran vows to retaliate against Israel. We have more on how Israel is preparing.
European lawmakers now passing immigration reform as it becomes a top election issue in many EU countries. We have the details of the possible changes.
Archaeologists in Pompeii uncover an artwork depicting scenes from Greek mythology. A new excavation project reveals more about the lost city.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hi, I'm David Lamb, sitting in for Chris Beers.
And to begin, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida addressed a joint session of Congress in Washington today.
The speech marks only the second time that Japan's leader has delivered a formal address to members of Congress. Our reporter, Luis Martinez, is on the scene.
Luis, give us an update.
Yes, of course. As you just mentioned, it's only the second time in U.S. history that a Japanese prime minister speaks to a joint session of Congress. The first time was in 2015 when late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited D.C. During today's remark, Prime Minister of Japan Fumio Kishida made some very fond comments of his childhood. He spent in the U.S. while he was the first 3 years of elementary in Queens, New York. He actually studied in Public School 13 and Public School 15. The Prime Minister also made comments of fond memories of watching the Flintstones and how Americans were very kind to him in his childhood here in America, and then quickly turned the mood of his speech to talk about security. Not only the security of Japan, but the international order. Let's listen to what Prime Minister of Japan Fumio Kishida had to say during his speech to the joint session of Congress.
China's current external stance and military actions present unprecedented and the greatest strategic challenge, not only to the peace and security of Japan, but to the peace and stability of international community at large.
It's also very interesting to note that this is the 6th time a foreign leader has spoken to a joint session of Congress since President Biden took office. Of course, it's also worth mentioning that it was Speaker Johnson who sent the invitation to Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Just yesterday, President Biden and the Japanese Prime Minister announced an upgrade in the security alliance in between the U.S. and Japan, now a global security alliance. Also, they announced new defense infrastructure to be built jointly with Australia and a future path for Japan to join the security cooperation known as AUKUS, which is Australia, United Kingdom, and the United States. Later today, President Biden and Secretary of State Antony Blinken will host a lunch with Prime Minister of Japan Fumio Kishida at the State Department, and at the end of the evening, they will hold the first ever trilateral meeting of heads of state of the United States, Japan, and Philippines. And of course, China will be at the forefront of the conversations, as of course it's been mentioned very clearly. The Prime Minister of Japan did not mince words in signaling that China was the main threat to the international global order. Back to you.
All right, Luis Martinez, we appreciate the reporting live from Washington, D.C. Thank you. Now, a gift that keeps on giving. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida presented new cherry trees in Washington, D.C.'s tidal basin yesterday. Japan is giving the United States 250 cherry trees, meant to reflect the strong geopolitical alliance and friendship between the two nations.
The number of trees is symbolic of the United States' 250th birthday, which is in 2026.
The new trees will replace the existing ones that will be torn down during construction work in the coming months.
Tidal Basin has become a popular spot due to the nearly 3,000 brightly colored cherry trees donated by Japan in 1912.
The trees were given as a symbol of peace and goodwill between the two nations.
And West Virginia has put major financial firms on a restricted list. State Treasurer Riley Moore announced he has added Citigroup, TD Bank, the Northern Trust Company, and HSBC to the state's restricted financial institutions list.
This is after determining these institutions are engaged in boycotts of fossil fuel companies as defined under state law. NTD's Business Matters interviewed the state treasurer for why the action was taken. Let's take a look.
All right, Treasurer Moore, thank you very much for your time today. So I just wanted your thoughts on this. You recently announced bans on 4 financial institutions from engaging in billions of dollars worth of state contracts. Inform us on the necessity of this action.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. And what this is the restricted financial institution list, which is a law I put forward and we got passed in the state of West Virginia in 2022. And what necessitates this is the problem that we have is the conflict of interest. So I'll give you an example. So last year, from coal, gas, and oil in severance taxes here in West Virginia, we actually got $1 billion from severance taxes. The state of West Virginia, our state budget is $4.7 billion. So that is a considerable amount of money for us. So I can't hand dollars over to financial institutions that are boycotting those very industries through ESG that helped us generate that revenue. And so we see a conflict of interest there. At the end of the day, look, they don't want to do business with our industries. Why should we do business with them?
And what would be the impacts on regular folks in West Virginia?
Well, look, we're an extraction industry state. As I mentioned there at the beginning, we generate a lot of money from coal, gas, and oil, but it's also a lot of jobs, and these are good paying jobs. The average coal miner here in West Virginia is making nearly $90,000 a year, which that is a very good salary here in West Virginia. Look, there are 2 people on the state flag of West Virginia, a farmer and a coal miner. That should tell you about all you need to know. It is very much a part of who we are.
And I want you to respond to what these banks have said. So some of them are saying that they do lend to fossil fuel-based energy companies and have exposure to this industry. What is your response to that? Set the record straight for us.
Well, they clearly have prohibitive language on, for example, thermal coal, which is the coal that generates electricity. But fossil fuels is all 3. It's coal, natural gas, oil. And for us, If you're not open to lending to all three, then that is a problem for us.
All right. Thank you very much today, West Virginia State Treasurer Riley Moore. Pleasure having you on.
Thanks so much for having me on.
In the Trump trials, a judge in the classified documents case made back-to-back rulings these past couple days. The rulings are both bitter and sweet for the prosecution. We turn now to our legal correspondent, Arlene Richards, for the details. Hey, Arlene, good to see you. So what's the latest with Trump's document case?
So Judge Eileen Cannon granted Walton Alta's request to submit a transcript of an interview he had with the FBI. Now, this was something that Jack Smith objected to because he said he didn't want any witness statements or transcripts being submitted so that the public could see it because he was concerned about the security and safety of the witnesses and their names being revealed. Now, the judge did finally agree to allow those witness names to be redacted after Smith kind of threatened that he would appeal to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. So she did agree to that, but she said it's going too far to allow the statements themselves to be kept under seal. So she's going to allow Nalta to attach this transcript to his motion to dismiss.
And speaking of a motion to dismiss, what are Walton Alta's arguments for wanting the case dismissed?
So he and Carlos de Oliveira, the other co-defendant, are both going to file motions to dismiss, and they're both going to argue that this indictment is not clear, that it's not clear to them what the charges are against them and what law they violated. Now, this is also a similar motion that was filed by Trump's attorneys, and she denied that motion. So if she denies these two motions, they will have the opportunity to ask for a bill of particulars, and that is asking the prosecution to give them more specific details about what the allegations are, what the crime is that they committed. And this way they can prepare for their defense and also avoid any surprises. So this will happen tomorrow. They will have the hearing tomorrow, Friday at 2 p.m.
Arlene, now in the New York hush money case, the appeals court rejects a third Trump legal challenge. What was his attorneys arguing this time?
Yeah, so this is the third time, 3 days in a row. They again argued that this gag order violated his First Amendment rights to free speech. They added that on. But they also said that the judge went beyond his authority by not allowing them to argue this presidential immunity claim, and that he also is refusing to recuse himself, and he's making them get permission before they can file any motions. And they say this is really going beyond his authority. And the third judge in a row, different judges on the panel, so this is the third one, denied their attempts to get the trial delayed until after they hear these motions. But the full panel will eventually hear these motions probably in the next few weeks.
All right, Arlene, always great to have you on. Thanks so much for your updates.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And up next, a showdown over state and federal power is taking place. A group of states are crying foul over a Biden executive order involving voter registration.
Billions of dollars spent, but the problem is only getting more serious. A new state audit reveals shocking numbers regarding California's handling of the homelessness crisis. More in just a moment, here on NTD News Today.
Hillsdale College is reaching and teaching millions of Americans to pursue truth and defend liberty. But to do that in an even bigger way, we need your help. Your generous support helps educate students from kindergarten to college, all while refusing every penny of government funding, even indirect funding like student loans or grants. And your dedicated giving allows us to teach millions of Americans through our free online courses. You make all the difference. Give a gift today. Just use this link.
This is it, the culmination of everything our young athlete has worked for these past months. He's filled with determination. You can see it in his face. Is today the day he overcomes? And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's on fire. Nothing can stop him. Watch him as he heads towards the goal. Oh, he's blocked hard. But that doesn't stop him. He's a warrior. He's back up. His eyes are on the goal. He's set up for the shot. He shoots. Goal!
Achieving achieving goals like this is only possible with the monthly support of people just like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support to Shriners Hospitals for Children so other children can reach their goals too.
If you give just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we will send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of the love you're giving us. Because of monthly support of people like you, nothing is stopping me from achieving my goals.
And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's going left. Oh, he fakes right and continues. Look at those moves. He takes the shot. Goal! Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to give right away. Your monthly gift helps kids achieve their goals. Goal!
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
Welcome back. A power struggle over voter registration is playing out between the White House and some secretaries of state. The top state officials say the federal government is trying to take over the voter registration processes from states. It all started with Biden's 2021 executive order aimed at expanding voter registration and election information. The states say the executive order goes against the Constitution, which says matters of voting shall be left to the state legislatures. The executive order requires every federal agency head to design plans related to voter registration, ensure access for some people in federal prison, and design a ballot tracking system for absentee voters. West Virginia Secretary of State Mac Warner says that power is not given to the federal government in the Constitution. Warner says West Virginia will not accept voter registration forms collected by federal agents. Warner has vowed to fight the federal government all the way to the Supreme Court.
A federal judge has struck down Miami's current city commission maps. It ruled that the city unconstitutionally drew district lines based on race. Judge Michael K. Moore's ruling stated that the city commission intentionally designed the maps to ensure specific racial demographics in each district. That's to create 3 majority Hispanic districts, 1 majority Black district, and 1 Anglo district. Moore found that the commission believed this strategy would guarantee racial diversity among its members. The judge prohibited the city from conducting elections under the unconstitutional districts. He also emphasized the serious harm of racial gerrymandering, citing a Supreme Court case.
Next, NPR says it's proud to stand behind its work after a senior editor criticized it for biased reporting.
The story has reportedly caused a commotion at the media organization.
This comes after NPR senior business editor Yuri Berliner told the Free Press that his news organization has turned its journalists into activists who tell its audience what to think. He cited examples of stories that he considers major issues of bias at the organization.
He cited NPR's promotion of the Russian collusion conspiracy theory used against former President Donald Trump. It's turning a blind eye to the Hunter Biden laptop report, its refusal to acknowledge the Wuhan COVID lab leak theory, and its emphasis on what he calls bizarre stories about systemic racism. Berliner said the NPR of today reflects the distilled worldview of a very small segment of the U.S. population.
NPR's chief news executive Edith Chapin responded, saying the organization is proud to stand behind the work that its desks and shows do to cover a wide range of challenging stories. But she also said that NPR's work isn't above scrutiny or critique, and that NPR's newsroom must have discussions about how to serve the public as a whole. And Iowa authorities will soon have the power to arrest and deport illegal immigrants previously denied admission to or removed from the United States. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed a new law yesterday expected to take effect on July 1st. Under the law, it will be a state crime for someone to be in Iowa if they have outstanding deportation orders or were previously removed from the United States.
Reynolds says Iowa's new law is a direct result of the Biden administration's failure to enforce U.S. immigration laws.
Under normal circumstances, the federal government is responsible for enforcing immigration laws. However, Reynolds says President Biden refuses to deport people who come into the country illegally.
Texas recently passed a similar law to the one in Iowa, but it's now stalled in court after a challenge from the Department of Justice. New York City's multi-million-dollar deal to care for illegal immigrants. The Big Apple is now letting a controversial contract worth almost $500 million expire.
City officials announced this week that they won't renew a contract with mobile health services company DuckGo.
The $430 million no-bid contract currently serves around 3,600 illegal immigrants.
DuckGo has come under scrutiny multiple times before. The city's comptroller criticized New York for awarding such a costly contract to a medical company that doesn't have experience in providing shelter to immigrants.
Governor Kathy Hochul previously said she'll probe whether the for-profit company was meeting its agreed-to obligations.
The New York Times found that DuckGo has been tossing away tens of thousands of uneaten meals, including 5,000 on a single day.
The DuckGo contract expires on May 5th. The city will then look for a competitive bid contract with a different vendor.
Now to California, where a new audit found the state failed to track the costs and outcomes of its homelessness services. That's despite spending billions of dollars over the last 5 years. The audit says California allocated around $24 billion over the last 5 years to combat the homelessness crisis.
But still, California's homeless population increased from 116,000 in 2015 to over 180,000 in 2023, as we see in this chart.
The report partly blames the California Interagency Council on Homelessness. The audit found the council hasn't tracked and evaluated state programs for almost 3 years now.
California's state auditor told Governor Gavin Newsom the state must do more to assess the effectiveness of its programs.
And Dallas police issued an arrest warrant yesterday for Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice. The NFL star faces several charges after he and another speeding driver caused a crash on the highway. The 23-year-old is charged with 1 count of aggravated assault, 1 count of collision involving serious bodily injury, and 6 counts of collision involving injury. An arrest warrant was also issued for the Theodore Knox, who was speeding in a Corvette.
Knox faces the same charges. Police say the drivers were speeding in the far left lane when they lost control.
Rice's Lamborghini hit the center median, causing the multiple vehicle collision. Police say the Rice and Knox fled the scene.
Aggravated assault is the most serious charge, punishable by up to 20 years in prison. In the southeastern part of the United States, severe weather continues to do damage from Florida to the Ohio Valley. This comes just a day after deadly tornadoes and flash floods.
In Augusta, Georgia, severe weather delayed the opening of the Masters tournament to 10:30 a.m. Across the country, some 150,000 people are without power this morning, mainly in Louisiana and Mississippi.
The National Weather Service issued multiple flash flood emergencies today, including in New Orleans and the Tallahassee, Florida area. More than a month's worth of rain fell in Tallahassee in just 2 hours earlier this morning.
A level 2 risk of severe thunderstorms is in place from Florida to South Carolina. Strong winds are still gusting through much of the region. More than 30 million people are under wind advisories.
Multiple tornadoes, damaging winds, and hail are possible in the most at-risk area, which extends from western West Virginia across eastern Ohio. A level 2 risk of flooding rain is also in effect for parts of the mid-Atlantic and interior Northeast.
The National Transportation Safety Board is conducting a new round of interviews with Boeing and FAA personnel this week. The interviews are part of a probe into the door plug blowout on a 737 MAX 9 in January.
NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy said yesterday that investigators were back at the 737 plant in Renton, Washington. Homendy said the NTSB is looking for other instances where a door plug was opened and closed to make sure that those records are available. She said investigators want to make sure those other instances are documented. Investigators are also looking at Boeing's safety culture.
Homendy said Boeing and investigators still don't know which personnel worked on the Alaska Airlines plane that suffered the emergency. The NTSB has still been unable to interview the door plug team manager, who has been on sick leave. The Justice Department has opened a criminal investigation into the emergency. Up ahead, Ukraine builds defensive fortifications along the front line with Russian forces. Their objective? To stop Moscow's troops from advancing any further after 26 months into the full-scale war.
German airline Lufthansa is suspending flights to Tehran. That's as the Middle East stays on high alert over a promised attack from Iran. We'll have the details soon when we return.
I had a pretty normal mom life. Everything was pretty good, and it was a very happy life.
And we just had a new baby. And then all of a sudden, within a day or two, she's on life support and fighting for her life.
And I knew something was pretty wrong. A little less than a week after I came home, I couldn't breathe. That's when we decided to go to the hospital. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
This could not happen without monthly donations from friends like you. Your sustained support helps fund life-saving research that leads to medical breakthroughs, like those that gave Jen a second chance at life. Heart disease is the #1 killer in America, and we urgently need your help to save lives. Go to helpheart.org or call now to become a monthly donor today. Your donation of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, will make a difference through prevention, early detection, treatments, and cures that help save lives.
I am very thankful for the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children.
Please go to helpheart.org or call now with your donation of just $19 a month. Join our community of monthly donors, and you'll get this limited edition t-shirt you can wear to show you're helping save lives.
One simple act today can save your life or the life of a loved one.
So please, call or go to helpheart.org now to help save lives.
The tempting online world is encroaching on our campus. Is unplugging cables and confiscating phones the solution to protect our children? No, we just need a clean multimedia platform. Join Ganjing Campus to leverage premium channel features, professional development courses, and kindness event toolkits tailored for teachers. Build a truly positive and interactive classroom community. Foster a pure and delightful learning environment for children.
Performance that truly matters. For each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. Shen Hyun. Coming to Lincoln Center, April 3rd through the 14th. Buy tickets now at shenyun.com.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wright. We thank you for joining us and watching America's Hope here on NTD News. Bottom line is, I know you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but let's give you some good news in the midst of the bad news. Watch us nightly, right here on NTD News, for a full dose of America's Hope.
Welcome back. We have more updates on the war in Gaza. As the fighting continues between Israel and Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addresses troops in southern Israel.
I said we are in challenging times. We are in the midst of the war in Gaza, which continues in full force. At the same time, we continue our unceasing efforts to return our hostages. But we are also preparing for scenarios of challenges in other arenas. And we established a simple principle. Whoever hurts us, we hurt him. We are preparing to meet the security needs of the State of Israel, both in defense and in attack. I and the people of Israel trust you, and may we all have great success.
This comes as Iran prepares to retaliate against Israel over the killings of Iranian generals in a strike on its consulate in Syria.
Iran has vowed to revenge after the strike killed 7 people. Russia and Germany on Thursday urged countries in the Middle East to show restraint.
And back in Gaza, Israel will soon build a new land crossing to the northern part of the territory. This would help deliver humanitarian aid from overseas or neighboring Jordan.
Meanwhile, Israeli media reported earlier today that Israeli forces killed 3 sons of a Hamas leader without consulting senior commanders or Netanyahu.
A Republican and a Democrat worked together to introduce a bill aimed at fighting anti-Semitism.
Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen and Republican Senator James Lankford hope to get the Countering Anti-Semitism Act signed into law.
Rosen said, quote, "There have been countless disturbing stories of Jewish families accosted and assaulted on streets, Jewish businesses and places of worship vandalized and desecrated, and Jewish students threatened at colleges and universities, of course, here in the U.S., that is."
According to CNN, the bill would establish a federal anti-Semitism coordinator who would run a task force aimed at stopping anti-Jewish hate in America. The bill would also establish May as Jewish American Heritage Month.
The head of the Anti-Defamation League said the bill is the most far-reaching anti-Semitism initiative ever to be introduced in Congress.
Lawmakers in Maine on Tuesday shot down a bill seeking to ban citizens from China and other adversarial nations from buying land in the state. The measure was rejected by the state's Democrat-controlled House legislature. That's as illegal Chinese marijuana grows are becoming more widespread in Maine. Authorities spotted over 270 suspected operations, estimated to bring in over $4 billion in revenue.
Illegal Chinese marijuana growing operations are cropping up all across the U.S. In Oklahoma, authorities have flagged 3,000 marijuana farms for suspicious activity. Over 60% of them have a Chinese connection. Similar operations are found in California, Washington, Oregon, Massachusetts, Michigan, Colorado, and Nevada. Authorities say illegal marijuana grows often bring other problems with them, such as money laundering, human trafficking, and forced labor. And China sanctioned 2 U.S. defense companies today over what it called their support for arms sales to Taiwan. This comes on the heels of Washington adding 4 Chinese companies to an export blacklist. The U.S. says the companies sought to acquire artificial intelligence chips for China's military.
The Chinese Communist Party sees Taiwan as part of its own territory, despite never having ruled the island. The U.S. doesn't have formal diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but it sells weapons to the islands so it can defend itself.
As for the 2 American firms sanctioned by China, they make tanks and drones. Their assets in China would be frozen, and their management wouldn't be able to enter China.
Turning our attention now to Canada, where a federal lawmaker admits that Chinese students were buzzed in to vote for him. He is now under investigation for foreign interference.
Han Dong is a Canadian member of Parliament representing a district in Toronto. On Tuesday, he testified at a hearing by the government's Foreign Interference Commission. Dong admitted that a busload of Chinese international students voted for him in the 2019 Liberal Party nomination race.
I understand that you've also recently recalled that beyond the 2 buses that your wife was involved in procuring for the campaign, there was another bus that you became aware of bringing voters to the nomination contest.
That's right.
Okay. What can you tell us about that bus?
Well, I was the candidate. I was told by the campaign that there were students coming in a bus to vote.
The lawmaker said he believes the students came from New Oriental International College, a private high school, but he denied knowing how the bus was chartered or paid for.
During my campaign, I remember visiting the residents and had a conversation with the students that came to the gathering. And I encouraged them to volunteer for my campaign. And for those who are eligible, I encouraged them to register as Liberal members so they can vote.
Non-citizens over 14 years old can vote in party elections if they live in the electoral district. But according to a report by Canada's top intelligence agency, the students didn't live in Dong's district. The report also found that an agent of the Chinese consulate in Toronto was believed to have provided false documents to the students and pressured them to vote for Dong.
These students who you spoke to, what language did they speak?
They spoke, I remember some of them spoke good English, but Mandarin.
Okay. And what country do you believe they were nationals of?
I assume that they were from PRC.
Okay, so international students from China.
The investigation into Dong's campaign is part of an ongoing federal inquiry into foreign influence in Canada's 2019 and 2021 elections. Intelligence leaks to media suggest the Chinese Communist regime interfered in the elections by supporting favorable candidates and undermining critics. Dong denied involvement from the Chinese regime in his campaign. The Chinese embassy in Canada also denied involvement. Reporting by Allison Lee, NTD News.
South Korea's Liberal Opposition Party scored a landslide victory in the country's parliamentary election. This dealt a resounding blow to President Yoon Suk-yeol and his Conservative Party. Here's that story.
South Korea's Conservative president was dealt a resounding blow on Wednesday as the country's Liberal opposition scored a landslide victory in a parliamentary election. The Liberals were projected to fall just short of the 200 seats needed for a supermajority, but their win likely means political gridlock ahead for President Yoon Suk-yeol. Main opposition Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung thanked supporters and called it a great victory for our people. Lee had led a combative campaign against Yoon. He urged Yoon's party to work together with the opposition towards an economic recovery, calling it their top priority. The ruling People Power Party was set to win just 108 seats. President Yoon, who took office in May 2022, was not up for election this time, but the bitterly fought race was seen by some analysts as a referendum on his leadership, coming as Yoon's popularity falters under a cost of living crisis and a series of political scandals. Yoon humbly accepted the election results and pledged to renew his administration, his chief of staff said. His party's leader, Han Dong-hoon, took responsibility for the loss and said he would step down. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and other senior aides also offered to resign, according to Yonhap News. Yoon still has 3 years to go in his 5-year single term allowed by the Constitution.
And now we have some short headlines from the UK, Germany, and other European countries. European lawmakers this week approved a revamped migration system. The aim is to reduce irregular arrivals as immigration becomes a top election issue in many EU countries.
The changes would cut the time for security and asylum procedures at external EU borders and increase deportations to reduce unwanted immigration from the Middle East and Africa.
The 27 EU member countries now have to endorse the reform package before it can take effect. They might vote on it late April. Ukrainian officials say Russia launched a major drone and missile attack on its power facilities earlier today.
Authorities say the strikes damaged energy facilities across 5 regions. Officials say around 200,000 people lost electricity.
Ukraine's Air Force commander said air defenses took down 18 incoming missiles and close to 40 drones. Ukraine's military says over 80 missiles and drones were used in the attack.
Kyiv is asking the U.S. for Patriot air defense systems. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky wrote on Telegram that Ukraine needs air defenses and other support, not eye-closing and long discussions.
And Russia today finally test launching its Angara A5 rocket at a new location. That's after technical glitches prompted officials to abort the mission for 2 days in a row.
The rocket launched from Russia's Far East. The Angara is a new post-Soviet launch vehicle. Its launch is intended to showcase Russia's post-Soviet space ambitions and the importance of the new launch location.
Officials say the rocket launched with a test payload and worked normally. The upper section separated and brought the test payload into orbit. Ukraine's parliament today passed a controversial law to boost military conscriptions. The law would make it easier to identify every draft-eligible man in the country. Many have dodged the draft by avoiding contact with authorities.
This comes about a week after Ukraine lowered the draft-eligible age for men from 27 to 25. The new law will become effective a month after the president signs it, but it's not clear when he'll do that. It took him months to sign the law reducing the draft age.
Lufthansa extended the cancellation of daily flights from Frankfurt to Tehran this Saturday. It said the decision was made to avoid a situation where the airline's crew had to stay overnight in the Iranian capital.
The German carrier suspended flights to Tehran due to the situation in the Middle East on Wednesday. The region is on alert for possible Iranian retaliation for a suspected Israeli airstrike on Iran's embassy in Syria. Ukraine is rushing to build defensive fortifications along the front line with Russian forces and the Russian border. Their objective: stop Moscow's troops from advancing any further after 26 months of full-scale war. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on the mission.
In the Chernihiv region north of the capital, Kyiv, dozens of Ukrainian workers installed metal reinforcements along a trench last month. Heavy machinery cleared earth nearby.
We are now on the line of defense, manned by people, by soldiers. A bit further away, ahead, is another line made of dragon's teeth, pyramid-shaped obstacles of reinforced concrete, which have been constructed to stop the enemy's military hardware that managed to get through.
Russian troops poured across the nearby border in February 2022. Ukrainian forces were able to repel the offensive, but the area has been regularly shelled since.
It is noisy, but there have not been any hits. That's how I can describe it. Aggressors' drones keep flying over. It's noisy, flights overhead, but we continue building. There is no other way.
Ukraine has put down 100,000 dragon's teeth as part of its defensive line stretching 1,200 miles.
Behind me is an anti-tank trench preventing the enemy hardware from moving forward. It is part of a system of obstacles and barriers, mines as well as non-explosive obstructions such as, for instance, pyramids and others. All there will be mined, part of the whole system of defense.
But this isn't purely a defensive operation.
No, just the opposite, the opposite. There is a military term, Platzdarm, a lodgment from which it is possible to go forward to a more active phase, to carry out attack operations, attack strategy. It is important to say that we are not digging trenches just to build fortifications. We are creating a certain reserve of resources.
More than 2 years since the Russian invasion, Europe's bloodiest conflict since World War II has become a war of attrition. With Russian troops pushing hard in the east, completing these defenses has become increasingly urgent. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned that Russia could mount a new offensive this spring or summer. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Still to come, Geneva is hosting its famous Watches and Wonders show this weekend. It showcases watches from all across the price ranges. See the latest and greatest watches ahead of the show.
Archaeologists in Pompeii uncover artwork depicting scenes from Greek mythology. A new excavation project reveals more about the lost city. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste, and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth, without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-984-7221. That's 1-800-984-7221 or go to getbullseyepro.com.
What do you look for in a watch? Elegance, functionality, perhaps just a classic design?
The Swiss watch industry's biggest annual trade show returns to Geneva this week. This year's Watches and Wonders Fair features many luxury timepieces and also some for the more budget-minded collector. Let's take a look.
Geneva, Switzerland is again hosting a watch show highlighting stunning creations. Looking for a thinner watch? How about one of the thinnest watches ever made? It's selling for about $780,000.
I just would like to present you the thinnest watch on the fair today, which is this watch here. This watch here, which is the Altiplano Ultimate concept with the flying tourbillon inside, only 2 millimeter thin. It's an amazing development, many years of work, really a huge achievement.
Maybe you like a watch that keeps track of the moon's phases. This one sells for about $55,000.
And we have, for instance, I already have seen a moon phase, which is actually the most accurate moon phase in the world, just having 1 day discrepancy after 45 million years.
The show offers watch collectors, known as horologists, the world's most complicated watch. It's a pocket watch and will cost around $8 million.
So here are the 5 different additional plates who does give us like the information for those complications. The advantage of this display is that we can put them on top of each other in order to see like the amount of components who does create this forest of complication hosted in this watch. Again, 2,877 spare parts, 245 stones, and for the indication, 31 hands and 9 discs.
While the show highlights luxury watches, companies are also showcasing models selling for about $1,000 to $3,000.
The price range, which we consider very important in the market right now, is in between 1,000 and 3,000, where the end consumer are looking for a nice, elegant, and refined timepieces. And there is a high demand for this price segment.
This year, the general public is being offered better access than ever before. The Watches and Wonder 2024 show will open its doors for 3 days, up from 2 last year, from April 13th through the 15th.
Archaeologists in Pompeii have uncovered several previously unknown artworks depicting scenes from Greek mythology. They were discovered during new excavation work in the lost city. The Pompeii Archaeological Park released video and images today showing remarkably preserved frescoes. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD left the artwork buried in ash.
According to the park, one of the artworks found is believed to depict the Greek mythological figures of Helen of Troy and Paris, Prince of Troy. Another is said to show the Greek god Apollo trying to seduce the Trojan priestess Cassandra.
The paintings are thought to have been originally displayed in a banquet room as conversation pieces.
The excavation site is part of a larger project designed to make the vast heritage of Pompeii more efficient and sustainable. The work hopes to shed light on what life was like in the ancient city before it perished from the volcanic eruption.
And as famished Turks celebrate the end of Ramadan, there's plenty of demand for baklava. And for diabetics, there's a new low-sugar alternative to the traditional dessert. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details on that.
Omer Önder Özdemir is a regular customer at this bakery. The 34-year-old chemist has diabetes and likes to order the purple baklava.
We prefer purple baklava because it is natural, good for diabetes, and made from the essence of natural fruits. We do not buy purple baklava from anywhere. We buy it especially from baklava maker Mehmet Yildirim. We have been choosing purple baklava for years.
Bakery owner Mehmet Yildirim says the purple color comes from anthocyanins. The antioxidants are found in certain fruits and vegetables like berries and red cabbage.
We mix this substance called mormix into the flour in a certain amount. It has a measure. When we mix it into the flour and make the dough with this flour, we add beet sugar to the baklava.
Dietitian Kansu Özdemir says purple baklava should still be consumed in moderation.
Purple baklava raises blood sugar a little slower because the antioxidants found in purple fruit mixtures cause blood sugar to rise a little slower. It can be given as an alternative to diabetic individuals, but of course only if the person is very insistent on eating baklava would it be something we want to give.
Muslims consider Ramadan as a time of spiritual reflection, where they do not eat or drink from sunrise to sunset. As dusk falls over Istanbul, believers eagerly anticipate breaking their fast. All Muslim adults who are physically capable of doing so participate. Özdemir says diabetics should be cautious about not eating for extended periods of time.
It is not healthy for individuals with diabetes to fast, but we may have clients who insist on this. They can get detailed information about whether they should fast or not by consulting their doctors.
The end of the month will be celebrated with a feast when the next crescent moon appears. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
3 Micronesian mariners were rescued from a tiny remote island in the Pacific Ocean on Tuesday after being stranded for more than a week. The trio spelled out help using palm fronds laid on a white sand beach. Their ingenuity worked. A U.S. Navy jet spotted the sign.
According to the Coast Guard, the 3 men had been planning to fish around the area, which is part of Micronesia, on March 31st. But their 20-foot open boat was caught by swells and its outboard motor was damaged.
They scrambled ashore onto the uninhabited islet, but didn't have radio with power.
The Coast Guard said they lived off coconut meat and fresh water from a small well on the island, which is sometimes visited by fishermen in the region. And good for them. All right, for round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app.
And be sure to stick around for NTD Newsroom at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll cover more stories from the U.S. and around the world.
spectacular, so beautiful.
I thought I was going to heaven.
Oh, it was electric.
I'm getting chills talking about it.
It gets a 10 from me, that's for sure.
It was that good.
Absolutely marvelous.
Hands down the best show I've ever seen.
It's emotional, it's captivating, it's visual. Every single bit of your senses is engaged.
Oh my gosh, it was a riot. I didn't expect to laugh so much and also be touched so much.
I was literally looking for something which was magical, uplifting, and it was way more than that.
The music was just so beautiful, and it really lit up the room.
And there's nothing like live music.
The combination of the music and the dancing was sometimes uplifting. You know, my toes are tapping and I want to get out of my seat. But it was also very calming.
I think it's magnificent. It's magnificent to see another part of Chinese culture that a lot of people don't get to see. And the stories are amazing. The execution, the dance is amazing.
The flips, the aerial movement, it was amazing. It wasn't anything I've ever seen before.
Absolutely perfection. There wasn't even one flaw.
I must say I'm so highly impressed with the level of the dancers, their technique, just all the concepts are absolutely wonderful.
The costumes, they were works of art.
The way they used the costumes to create part of the image, it was just absolutely mind-blowing.
I thought I was going to come to see some amazing dancing, but I learned so much about the Chinese culture.
They're actually telling you the story of their life, of their culture, of their history, and bringing it full circle so that we can see and enjoy it.
There was an encouragement to go back to that divine nature and those divine values.
This experience for me is transcendent. It was a communication to the soul and the spirit.
And I cried, I think, the whole time because it was so amazing.
It was powerful, and it is something that's needed in today's society.
People nowadays go to the doctors, the psychiatrists for pills, for antidepressants. This is the antidepressant, the best.
I knew it was going to be good. It's a billion times better than I even thought it would be.
I've heard people say you don't want to miss this, and I would fully agree.
I'm going to tell everyone to come see it. You have to.
Definitely going to come back next year.
Totally inspirational. You have to go see this.
Everyone needs to see this.
Don't miss it.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime must-see that will change their lives forever.